Good morning. It's November 26th, and we are going to open the regular meeting for the Klickitat County Commissioners. As far as roll call, it's Mr. Anderson and I here today, and Mr. Christopher had sent an email that he will not be joining, but he sent his preferences on the consent agenda to staff to be entered into the record. So we'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, I would make a motion to approve the business agenda with one add-on under miscellaneous reports, the discussion of the December 24th, 2024 BOCC meeting.
Thank you. And I'll step down in second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes.
Madam Chair, I would make a motion to approve the meeting minutes from November 12th, 2024 with the change under 141 unfinished business. There was a motion by Christopher and a second by Zoller, and it said that it was passed. We need to remove that out because there's 3 sections in there.
Okay.
And that point, it was just seconded, and then we went into discussion, and then there was the superseding motion or not superseding, but to stop discussion. And so we just need to remove that little bit.
I forgot where we were. Do I need to step down in second?
Yep.
Motion. Okay, yeah, you did do that. Okay. So I will step down in second the approval of the commissioner meeting minutes with changes. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. So we are to public comment, and we'll start in the room. If anybody's available, please come forward when we call on you and let us know who you are for the record if you can. Otherwise, we'll call online. If you raise your hand or unmute yourself, we'll call on you. So we'll start in the room. No? So good morning online. Good morning, Roger Nichols.
Good morning, and I apologize for having to ask this, but this is part of my journalistic thing, is to note that one of the items on your consent agenda today is a $2 million payment in regards to a settlement of a lawsuit. My question would be, is that any of the money coming from the county itself, or is this all being settled by the insurance pool? And the other thing is, if you wish to make any comment about any of that, I would appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Nichols. In the room? So online, please raise your hand or unmute. Anybody? Rick?
Yeah, hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, so good morning to everyone attending the meeting. To Commissioner Christopher, I will admit that I was given some bad information by those that I was previously related to and took that to heart before talking to you. For that, I was wrong and wish to apologize. Furthermore, you're the only commissioner that I have witnessed to have the taxpayers' interest in the forefront when conducting business for Klickitat County. Your fight on behalf of the taxpayers will be missed, and thank you for fighting the good fight. For Anderson, just bye. Commissioner Zoller, you have once again created a black hole for Klickitat County. Your recklessness has and will continue to cost the county dearly. Your recent interview with KLCK 1400, as well as published interview with Goldendale Sentinel and Columbia Gorge News, references the ongoing relationship and negotiations between Klickitat County, the City of the Dalles, and the FAA. The information that you have discussed was not to be released to the public, discussed to the public, and was a violation of attorney-client confidentiality and privilege. You knowingly and willingly discussed this confidential matter with the multiple media outlets, so do not try and sit there and play the victim. What excuses are you going to use this time? Paperwork mistake? No one told you couldn't? The voices in your head said it was a good idea? So there's only one response for any excuse that you try to use, and that is bullshit. You have led this county into a deficit. Commissioner Christopher, I believe that you were correct when you forecast 30% of county employees could be laid off. And I thank you for trying to tell the other commissioners, and I wish that they had listened and worked with you. This not only affects the poor people who are going to lose their jobs due to you, but the entire taxpaying community. The economic wasteland will impact every citizen in Klickitat County and will create a wide-ranging economic shockwaves across Washington and Northern Oregon. Commissioner Zoller, you have once again failed to protect the taxpayers of Klickitat County with your recklessness. Your relentless persecution of Sheriff Songer and his staff has led you down a rabbit hole of lies and deception. The FAA gaffe is just another feather in the cap of your incompetence. For these reasons, and many I did not mention, I call for you, Commissioner Zoller, to step down as Klickitat County Commissioner District 2. Do this for the good of the county. Do this while you still have a shred of dignity left. Do this before we, as the people, forcibly remove you from office by any and all legal means at our disposal. Until you step down, I would ask that everyone listening spread the word of Commissioner Zoller's mistakes. And I ask that all taxpayers across Klickitat County band together and demand that she steps down. Until this is done, I also ask that no one support any business that has her name upon it. Thank you.
Thank you. In the room? Nope. So back online. Anyone wish to speak? You could unmute or raise your hand so we can see you, please. Dallasport Murdoch Community Council.
Good morning. This is Anthony again, and did it say community council? I need to change that. This is myself as a taxpayer and living in District 2, and I have to agree with everything Rick has said. I understand there was a very volatile meeting on Friday at the airport meeting. And a lot of things came out, and I really do, and I've said it before, at one time I would like to have seen you recalled because you've lied to the Republicans. You've lied to District 2, Lori, and you need to step down. Between you and Jake, the fact that we are so out of touch with our budget that we're going to have to lay off 30% of our employees is completely ridiculous. And a lot, especially right at the first of the year, of course, when Jake is skating on out of here. So on to other things. But Lori, you've lied to me. You've lied to the sheriff. You lied to the Republican Party just so you could get your foot in the door and get in there. And you are actually bad for this county commission, and you need to step down. And I'll be the first one to agree with Rick, and hopefully we can get you to do that so that we can put somebody in there that's going to be looking after the people, not themselves and not for power. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Rizzi. Back in the room. No one available in the room. Online, is there anyone that wishes to give comment this morning? Just raise your hand or unmute. 2662.
Hello, Commissioners. This is Tracy McCune from Lyle. And I would like to bring up, I went to the Lyle Fire Department's business meeting both last month and this month. And last month I asked if they were going to have their budget hearing. And they said, oh, next month we're going to have it at our business meeting. So I went the next month and I brought some community members with me and asked if it was their budget hearing, and they wouldn't tell any of the community members or myself if it was a budget hearing. We did our public comments, which were, that we didn't feel that they should raise the budget more than their usual 1% because of their grants that they've received. They received a $586,000 grant for a tender, a $288,000 grant for equipment. And then they said that they received a solar grant for $700,000. I'll get to that in a second. Anyway, they went ahead and they didn't listen to any of us. They didn't answer any of our questions. They were rude. They were not transparent. And they approved a 5% raise for their levy. And that's my first comment is there's anything that a person can do since they didn't give a reason for their raise of their levy. They've got more money in investments and in grants this year than they ever have. Why would they raise it 5%? And I didn't know if before the commissioners approve it, if there's anything the county can do. The second thing is their solar grant. So they received $700,000 for a solar grant, and they're going to have 44 kVH or yeah, that's how you say it, kilowatts of battery storage in the fire station. The county just put a moratorium for large scale battery storage in residential areas, and I'm wondering if the Lisle Fire Department, which is the fire department that would put out a fire, it seems kind of crazy that they would put this battery storage, large battery storage inside the fire department in a residential area. So I'm wondering if the commissioners are going to allow that. And then secondly, if the commissioners are going to let other public agencies and school districts and such know that there is a moratorium and you cannot have battery storage in residential areas. Lisle School is another one that has battery storage. They have all these things on their roof and they have kids in there. So if this is a dangerous thing to have battery storage, I'm hoping the commissioners will make it known and we can close down some of these battery storage sites. Thank you and have a good day.
Thank you, Tracy. In the room. So back online. Please unmute or raise your hand. Seven, 211.
Greg Wagner, C. James Dean was issued a conditional use permit by the Board of Adjustment 1995 to operate his quarry on Highway 141. November 18th, James Dean admitted he has continually violated conditions of his CUP. Mr. Edelman heard this admission. Will his CUP be revoked, or will his violation of his CUP be ignored as a special favor? Jake says there are no special favors. Why issue a conditional use permit with conditions if it is not going to be enforced? If the board, the planning department, or the BOA will not enforce conditions of a conditional use permit, then don't issue any conditional use permits and let all the citizens do whatever they want with their land. James Dean has violated the permitted uses in his lease agreement with a sediment pond on county property. That's County Quarry 101. Why is he allowed to do this? Why is Dean being allowed to use the County Quarry 101 and pay the county $100 per year and only pay $203 a year in property tax? Last year, Mr. Dean made $1.5 million in aggregate sales, and the county received $302. We're in a deficit. Why aren't we taking advantage and making money off of this lease? Why isn't the assessor assessing Dean's property at the highest and best use, true and fair value? And if she did, the county would receive more revenue. This is the same with Dean's other quarry up on Highway 141 that he's leasing from DNR. There's a quarry in Bingen and there's several quarries in Goldendale. And this similar pattern of lack of revenue collected continues with those. Why does the surface mining have 3 different zoning classification codes in our county codes? James Dean is aggregate resource district. The quarries Holbrook and Riley's are general industrial, and the Bingen quarry is open space. Why are there 3 different zonings for surface mining? The intent and purpose of an overlay zone is to protect and enhance the underlying zones. The EOZ abuses the intent and purpose of an overlay zone, and it must be eliminated because it supersedes the underlying zoning. EOZ covers 2/3 of the county, and it abuses all the adjoining properties when it permits wind and solar projects outright. The overlay needs to be removed, and any project that wind or solar wants to be placed must go through a conditional use permit, just the same as if a citizen wants to use their property for something it's not zoned for. So this needs to be changed. This energy overlay zone is abusive. I'd like to know what Mr. Edelman thinks about all this, because this is it's been bad for our county, and it's going to be worse for our county if we leave it remain, this energy overlay zone. Something needs to be done.
Thank you, Mr. Wagner. Thank you. In the room. So back online. Anyone else this morning? Good morning, Sherry.
Good morning, Klickitat County Commissioners. Yeah, I wanted to follow up on that battery storage in Lyle and get some clarification from you as a county, if, you know, you're the county. And since there's a moratorium in place, is the county going to permit that size of battery storage placed in that location in that residential area? Because if that catches on fire, it's going to burn all their fire trucks. Who's going to put the fire out? Okay, so if you guys are going to permit it or not, and if you want to do the hot potato, it's not my jurisdiction, whatever, who would allow permit a fire district to put that size of battery storage in that location, in that building? So I would like that answer. That needs to be clarified because it's coming down the pike. So I'd like to know, you know, if that's going to be allowed. And then also I listened to the Monday Night Planning Commission about the Dean rezone. And it's almost sadder than under canvas. I don't know which one's sadder because I don't know who needs to die first or whose lives need to be disrupted. But the local people in that residential area spoke up. They spoke up. They were on the phone, they were in person. And this one guy, Bruce Rood, he is right up in his backyard. I mean, it just keeps encroaching. This other guy who lives next to Mr. Rood, he's like, well, Dean's going to try to buy my land, but we're talking about it. I support it if he buys my land. Well, he's not going to buy the land. And all these people's lives are going to be destroyed. And, you know, at the end of this planning commission, because it was obvious they were given instructions, we got to push this through because, as I stated before, I believe Dean is already mined into some areas he doesn't have permitting for, but everybody just blind eye. And the planning commission said, well, some people have to be sacrificed pretty much because why did they want to approve it? Oh, here's a good one. Because it's a public resource and it's good for the public. So all those people who live around there, they just need to deal with it because the public will be better off because that's the only place I guess we can get some rock around here. So, but then I also testified that Dean has a quarry right up the street on the 141, 15 miles, 20 miles up the road at Trout Lake? And he's going to town on that right now. So if you're saying it's for the public good that all these people's lives need to be destroyed and their values of their homes devalued, then because that's the only rock, well, that's a lie too. So, you know, I just like some common decency from decision making to the people. I don't think we've seen that, especially with under canvas. And Lori, when you said that Oak Ridge will have to be improved because that new entity is going in, thank you. Hopefully not very many people will die.
Thank you, Sherry. Okay, online. Raise your hand or unmute so we can see you'd like to give comment and we'll call on you. Seeing no one. Well, one last chance in the room. Back online, we'll do one more time and then we'll move on with our day. I'm not seeing anyone. Nope. Rebsky.
Yes, this is Robert Brown from Dallasport. Due to all the talk about the 2025 budget shortfalls, hearing that it's quite possible that 64 full-time jobs could be eliminated in the county, what does this mean for our fire protection, police department, county works that keeps our roads clear and everything else that goes along with that? And what are the plans for filling that budget shortfall? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Brown. Anyone else this morning? Mr. Edelman, good morning.
I will, if that's okay.
Yes, please.
I'm speaking as a citizen, not as the planning director, although that's difficult because I know it's tied together. And I'm a better speaker when I don't have adrenaline going. And adrenaline doesn't happen with work comments. So none of the comments had to do with the job affect me this way. I appreciate all of them because even if I disagree, they have, in some ways make us better. The adrenaline is coming because Klickitat County is too small and too good for the negativity that we see so often in public comments, including today. I have not been a victim at all in my time here of what I would consider a personal attack. I've had people very adamantly disagree with me on a professional level. None of that's personal. You folks have had to deal with that. Others have, other departments. I hope that this will come to an end. I believe in free speech. I don't think we should censor people, but I do hope it'll come to an end by positivity. You hear from the negative people a lot. Personal attacks, they're not okay. And I think it's the community that needs to tell them that, not directly, but by their actions. I stay out of politics entirely, except for on a one-on-one basis. I vote, of course, but I don't want people to know what my opinions are on solar, on candidates, on anything, because I serve the whole public, and I do not in any way want somebody to think that my personal life goes to my professional. So I don't talk about politics. If you try to make me wear a mask or get a vaccine, I will talk about politics. Other than that, I stay out of it. Lost words. Oh, the jail situation. Obviously, I stayed out of that. That's your realm. It's not mine. But there was a lot of emotions that came out right away. It's understandable. It's very emotional at first. Made sense. But once some of the emotions died down, another group came out. And I'm not all fault to anybody who participated. How they participated was theirs. But the group that came out, and I mentioned them a while back, was the matriarchs of this community. They came out calmly, with strength, with control, and gave their opinion and made their statements. And they just were so impressive to me. And that's the group that I would like to see more from, is the people who have invested in this community a long time and who know how to deliver their message in a soft but firm and powerful way. And I would just like to see more of that from the community. And I'm not saying to censor anybody. People can say what they want to. But I wanted to say that because I think we're still too small, we're too rural, and too good of a community to have so much negativity coming out in personal fashion. Thank you.
Thank you. Should we try online, or there's nobody there? We'd kind of given last chance. Candy this morning? No? Okay, not gonna go there this morning. Well, I think we're just about done with public comment if you want that chance. Okay. Oh, not this time. Great. So we will switch over to close public comment and switch to the commissioners. If Mr. Anderson, do you have anything this morning? Would you like me to go first? I know Mr. Anderson's a much bigger note taker than I am, so I will go first. So Tracy, I'm going to start with you. I will have to look into the fire issues. I'm not familiar with what you were talking about. I do know there's a process, and if there's an application for battery storage, we'll address it then when it comes in as an application. I don't know if this is just a thought or a future desire, but I'll look into some things and ask some questions, and I'll reach out. And Mr. Wagner and Sherry, thank you for your comments and your work always. I do have to say there is a legal separation between some of the processes required for the commissioners. So there's just some things that I'm not going to be able to comment on today because that will eventually wind itself through our desk, and I don't want to cross a line where I shouldn't cross the line. So I can be involved and make comment when I need to. Mr. Edelman, thank you. I appreciate who you are as a person. I think you're a big asset to our community personally. And then I'll address Robert Brown, Mr. Rizzi, and Rick. I don't know your last name. You didn't give us your last name. First, I'd like to say, Mr. Rizzi, we need to be careful of words. The word volatile about that airport meeting, I was in the room. I did work through that meeting and it was a positive meeting. In fact, we had a secondary meeting after that we got a lot closer on the page with some of the partners and the people. So I do not feel you were in the room, so you really know what happened. You got that secondhand, and it certainly was anything but volatile. I think as far as everything else that was said today, including the budget process, I would like to say that following the budget process all the way through, from the beginning to the end, not just taking bits and pieces, would have left you with different conclusion. The hard facts show and the documentation shows we're not in a huge budget deficit. We have some things to be cognizant of in the future, and we're going to be careful with our money. There was never, and I'll say never, a time that we talked about laying anyone off, and it's on the record. And there was never a time that it was documented that 64 jobs would be lost. That isn't happening, and it was never even talked about. So wherever you're getting that information, you're being fed misinformation on all the budget issues. For many reasons, I feel we've turned a corner with this election for the past way that this county has been damaged for the last 4 years. Negative misconceptions, misinformation have to stop. We have to deal with facts, and we have to deal with legal means on how the county commissioners have to operate. And that's been a big loss for the last 4 years. And I expect Rick, Mr. Rizzi, and Mr. Brown, if you have things to talk about or wish to bring forward to the public, I would ask that you do that in a positive manner and also back check what you're being told, look for documentation, and give me a call. I'd be glad to sit down with you. Even if you can't find that documentation, I'll sit down with you and I'll show you the documentation about things you're talking about. But we need to move forward at this county, and the days of hanging us up with negative and misinformation have came to an end. But thank you. Sorry, I'm short today.
First off, I'd like to say thank you to Scott. You're always so eloquent. I know what it's like to get your blood boiling and to have, the adrenaline pumping through your veins when you hear people talking about people you care about, people you respect. I know the endorphins were hitting me pretty hard there when I heard about these negative comments about my seatmate, Ms. Zoller. So I'll just start through here. Mr. Nichols, thank you for questioning on the settlement. I saw that you caught that ahead of time and put something in the newspaper. Of that $2 million, $10,000 is coming out of the county, and that has already been paid. That comes straight out of our coffers. The $2 million settlement comes out of our insurance. As everyone knows how insurance works, we all pay for it. Everybody who's a part of that insurance program will pay for it over the course of time, due time, probably with interest. So while we're not paying for it directly, in the end, it will affect how much we pay per year. It will affect how much the entire program works. I'm very glad that we have that insurance. Otherwise, we'd have another $2 million hole when it comes to our budget. I would direct everyone to review that settlement agreement and the knowledge that that was worked out by the attorneys for the insurance company, and that you can look to see what those requirements are. Without those, without the direction that this board has taken, that settlement could have been much more. And I just want everybody to be cognizant of that while $2 million is a lot of money, it's nowhere near how much it could have been. And there's a lot more to that that I don't think it's appropriate to go into, as this is a settlement agreement, but this is the public portion of that. Tracy, just wanted to specify that $700,000 grant. That is something that the fire commissioners chose to apply for because they think that it's going to help out the fire district. I'm sure they have to come up with a grant match, and they have to weigh those costs and benefits. I can tell you that the moratorium that was passed has no impact on that application because in that moratorium, it specifically excludes battery storage that's going to be used on site, and it's for that exact same purpose. You can look at anybody or many homes that have solar on them. They also might have a Tesla Powerwall or some other sort of battery storage, whether it's lithium ion, ion, or even lead acid. That is just one of the ways that you store the energy that's produced. You can look to see how much the utility, the PUD, pays for that power if you put it back on, and there's a reason they want to store it on site and use it. So as for the 5%, we, with how we adopt the levies, we can only raise 1%. The fire districts can only raise 1% without going out to ask the public for a levy lid lift unless they have the 1% that they've banked from the past. I don't know if that's a possibility that they've banked it from the past and they're using what they haven't used, or if they're going out for a levy lid lift. Again, the person to talk to would be the county auditor. To those speaking about the James Dean rezone, it is not appropriate for the Board of County Commissioners to respond, as that is going to be coming in front of us. It was likely not appropriate for us to even entertain any of those public comments, as that's going to be coming in front of us. I will respond to Mr. Wagner's comment that he believes that the energy overlay zone should be eliminated and that any of these projects should go through a CUP. I would just, it made me laugh because I'd just like to point out that we passed a resolution on the Knight Road project that is right next to you. When I first came into office, that was one of the first things that we did, was ensure that the Knight Road project would have to go through a CUP process. Instead, we spent years and pushed, and now it's going through the state process. So we're pretty much locked out of it. Whereas if we would have followed that, it would have went through a local process where there would have been local decisions and decision making with regards to that. Okay. I would sure love to know, Robert, where you heard that there's going to be 64 full-time jobs that are going to be laid off. I would direct you to our staff reports from our finance, from Miss Bartley, and all of the conversations and meetings that we've had on the 2025 budget. In no way are we reducing staff by 64. In no way are we reducing staff by a third. I did hear Rick state that it was Commissioner Christopher who told you that. If you could send me an email to verify that, Rick, because I believe Commissioner Christopher sat through all of those budget meetings. And I hope that he is not saying that we're going to be having a staff reduction by a third. That is just patently false and ridiculous. What we have done.
That's not what I said.
Okay, thank you very much, Rick. I could have heard it wrong. I was trying to listen and take notes as quickly as I could. I can tell you all from going and attending the county commissioners leadership conference last week that every county in Washington state is in financial difficulties and in financial straits. Many counties are reducing staff. Many counties are merging departments. Many counties are using the last of their ARPA dollars, and things are going to get significantly worse in the outcoming years. They are trying to proactively plan for that. Some counties are trying to fill a $12 million budget hole that aren't a whole lot bigger than we are in terms of the county. I don't wish to be in those counties' positions. This county has been fiscally prudent and frugal the entire time that I've been here. And for decades before that, we budget our revenues conservatively and we budget our expenses like they're going to be higher than they are. And that's proper fiscal budgeting. We always put money back into the coffers at the end of the year because our revenues come in higher than we expect. That has been nearly true for as long as I can remember in all of the years, that each year our cumulative reserve or our cash on hand grows at the end of the year. I'm not trying to say that we do not face financial headwinds. I do not wish to be sitting in this seat in the out years where we only get 1% more money, but we have increases, of 8 to 10%. If you've looked to see what bids are coming in for large projects over the last 2 years, there's increases of 50%. That just creates a position, an untenable position for the Board of County Commissioners sitting here, being faced with those hard financial realities and decisions. And I wish them all the good fortune and good luck. The state of Washington right now is projecting a $10 billion shortfall, $10 to $12 billion shortfall over the next 4 years. I want everybody to understand that when you have inflation like we've had and you only get 1% more money, that puts a significant strain on the resources and the services that we all as citizens require, request, and want. And that is not going to get any easier in the years coming forward. And everyone needs to recognize that. You only have two options in those places. You can continue to cut costs, which this board has done since the year I have gotten here, or you can try to raise revenues. And there's a multitude of different ways to raise revenues. And we have been one of the first boards to ever do that. We took, prior to Commissioner Zolier being here, we had to take the other second half of a percent on the sales tax. That was very difficult for someone who is a small government, small business supporter. But I did that knowing that we didn't have an option. This county is still in a very good position because we can continue to pull other levers that almost every other county in the state has had to pull with regards to revenues. You look at the sales tax in many other counties and they're 8, 9, almost 10% in one. They've had to take excessive actions in the past in order to balance their budgets, where we have those levers still. I wish all of the good fortune and the goodwill for who has to serve in this position over the next few years, but we are not reducing staff by 30%. That is not on the books. So whoever told you that is I'm sorry, plain out lying to you, and that has never came from this board. I would also like to say that Commissioner Zoller is working her tail off. She is working for the citizens of Klickitat County. She is working diligently with the airport, and she is trying to fix the problems that she sees them. The FAA issue was a long-standing issue that took a lot of time and a lot of money to work through, and we still have further to go, but sometimes it can take 5 to 10 years to get a response from a federal agency. And you know what? I have a feeling in the next few years it could get worse, not better, with regards to getting responses from the federal government. So you have to show grace in this position. You have to try to keep your calm when your blood is boiling. You have to let it slide off your shoulders, because Commissioner Zoller is a person. She has a family that hopefully wasn't having to listen to this, to having her being called names in public. But you know what's going to happen with this negativity continues in the out years? You're not going to have anybody who gives a damn about the public serve in these positions. Because if people continue to attack people, stalk people, try to tear you down at every opportunity, the only people you're going to have sitting up here are little tyrants. That's what's going to happen. People who only care about themselves and not the community. Because why in God's name would anybody want to do a job where you get attacked on a daily or weekly basis from people using misinformation and outright lies that you know are not true, but you know it affects you, it affects your family, it affects your happiness. And I hate to say it, for a position that's not even considered full-time. And so for all of your work, I want to say thank you to Ms. Zoller. For all of you who continue to listen in, we have more participants on our Zoom than King County does. And I think a lot of that is because sometimes misery loves company and people like to see us get beat up on a weekly basis. Because otherwise, why would there be 72 people that are listening, but they don't comment on the budget? They don't actually comment on the public hearings, the things that affect them, the things that actually determine what this county does for the next 2 or 4 or even next year. So I'm a firm believer in community service. I'm a firm believer in being involved in your public, but you should always come to the table with, here's a solution to the problem. Here's what I think we could do better, because we want to hear that. Because you know what? We're spread in a lot of different directions when you have, 13 different directors and 20 plus funds, and you serve on committees at the statewide level and everything else. A lot of things slip through the cracks because you just don't have time for it all. But if you have an idea that's positive and proactive that helps us in the problems, come forward. We always have an open door policy. You can call us at any time. But if your only action is to attack and to try to tear the people down or even the position down rather than the ideas, I'm sorry, but I'm not going to listen to it. And because I have a lot of things that I can be doing that actually positively impact my community. That's why we run for these positions, is so that we can help our neighbors. And with that, I think I've spoken long enough. But again, I'm sorry, Ms. Zoller.
Thank you, Mr. Anderson. It's fine. I recognize the source and I'm okay. And I just want to say to the public too, I do appreciate Mr. Anderson during these times. Even though Mr. Anderson is leaving, I see him putting in the time. I see him staying the course, and I see him helping me get the work done, paying the bills, doing the votes, everything we need to do to keep this county going. And I do appreciate it, Mr. Anderson. Okay. So, consent agenda.
Madam Chair, I would make a motion. Oh, sorry. Madam Chair, I would make a motion to approve the consent agenda with 16 items.
And I'll step down in second.
For discussion, we got an email from Commissioner Christopher yesterday where he asked that his official testimony be put on the record. So I felt that it would be proper to read that out. He states that he is a no vote on consent agenda items number 7, 8, and 12. And I'll read out what those are. Number 7 is the certification of the 2025 County General Taxing District and County Road Taxing District property tax levies in order to comply with state law. His rationale is because I disagree with raising the levy rate. He also states that he is a no on number 8 because we don't have the money, nor have we allowed others to claim unused balance carry forward. Number 8 is a request of approval for travel authorization exception form for the fiscal services manager to attend the Government Finance GFOA 119th Annual Conference in Washington, D.C. And he also says that he's a no on number 12, as I've had no contact with legal counsel on this settlement and will not sign a contract holding the county to specific conditions without the ability to ask counsel questions. And I just wanted to read that into the record. I would, since we are in discussion, I would like to respond at least to a bit of that. And that number 7, disagree with raising the levy rate. I tried to make it very clear that we raise the levy rate 1%. When we add in the new construction, that might actually go up almost 2%. And that levy rate, 2% that goes up, we bring in right at $5.6 million. That doesn't even cover the sheriff's budget. That is really budget dust of what we talk about when we raise that 1%. Without that 1%, you would very quickly be in the position where you're having to lay off employees. And so much of the general fund is in public safety and security. And so it's one of those interesting situations where you can be hit on both sides when you're a county commissioner, because you say, I don't want to raise taxes, but on the other hand, I don't want to have to lay off people. And part of this position is being in that position where you have to make those hard choices. That 1% goes into each and every one of us receiving the benefits from the public safety and the services we receive from the sheriff's office, the 911 system, and everything else in that. In regards to number 8, the claim of unused balance carrying forward, I believe the simple answer to that is regularly when you're going to go to a conference the next year, you can, and we recommend that you pay for your plane tickets and your hotel from this year because you get a better rate. And that saves the taxpayers money by doing that. And if we have unused balance in the budget, that helps next year's budget out. And it helps next year's budget by saving money by not paying more money for your airfare and your hotel. So I see that as actually a positive thing. And number 12, with regards to the settlement agreement, the Board of County Commissioners are not in the room for these settlement agreements because it is not the Board of County Commissioners that are settling. It is the insurance that is settling, and they bring in specialists that are attorneys to work on these settlements to hopefully not lead to litigation that would cost the county more money and the insurance company more money, and ensure that there is a fair and just equitable outcome that saves the taxpayers money. We have been updated throughout that. And I have had conversations with the prosecuting attorney throughout this process. I was very concerned that this would lead to actual litigation. A tort claim is not litigation. If this went in front of a judge and a jury, it could have been hugely detrimental to the taxpayers and the citizens of Klickitat County. While I never like to see settlements paid out, in this instance, it was the right thing to do. And I am wholly saddened for the loss of life in the jail, especially if it's something that's preventable. I will not pass judgment on anyone in the situation. All I can say is that my thoughts are with the family who lost a loved one. And I am very glad to see this chapter closed. And I'm even more glad to see that the changes in the jail that are agreed to will be done. And there is teeth in that settlement agreement to ensure that they do get done. And I think that that is only good for regaining the public trust in our correctional institutions.
I'm thinking I'll just add that I won't add anything because I agree with Mr. Anderson's statements and the facts that were in his statements. So thank you. So all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Thank you. Payroll.
Madam Chair, I would make a motion to approve the accounts payable warrants in the amount of $154,383.09 for the date ending November 18th, 2024.
And I will step down in second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion passes.
And here's the more expensive one. Madam Chair, I will make a motion to approve the accounts payable warrants in the amount of $719,014.63 and the payroll benefit warrants in the amount of $1,187,007.96 for the date ending November 25th, 2024.
And I will step down in second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion passes. So Commissioner reports. Is there
Did you
anything
ask for the add-on?
Oh,
Excuse me.
We had an add-on for
Or
discussion.
December
For
24th.
the discussion, the board discussion on December 24th. Yeah. Would you like to?
I didn't
start?
put it on there.
Oh,
so-
okay. Yes, I asked for it. Looking forward into our schedule for December 24th, we have very little on the agenda for that and the following Tuesday. Many of our people and our department heads are out for vacations or to be with their families, so we won't have reports coming in. I think about the only thing we will have are payroll and possibly bills to pay. Maybe some things on the consent agenda, so very short meetings. So in light of December 24th ending early, I would like to ask that we have very little traffic through the commissioner's office. And potentially our office staff would benefit if we close our office at 12 on December 24th.
I believe we had a conversation about this a couple weeks ago, and what we decided is that we would leave it up to the directors. And this instance, it would be the chair of the board can make that decision if that is warranted at the time. If you decide to let staff go home early, that's up to you.
Okay. And our staff does have, it wouldn't be a paid for leave. They do have vacation time they can access or sick leave. There is a request for a sick leave date on that date by one of our staff because of a leave slip that was turned in. So due to the least amount of traffic in our office, I'd like to say that we're going to release our staff if they have that time available to put in the leave slip for noon on December 24th.
Yeah, if I have no problem on December 24th, if you would like to close and lock the door,
Okay.
if that's what you're asking.
And that does not mean more
At
of us
noon.
might not be available. But yes, so that would be my decision for
Okay.
the commissioner's office to be closed at noon, the front door at
Okay.
least.
I don't see anybody coming in.
Yeah.
Anyways.
Okay, thank you. Would you like to do commissioner's report and update? Do you have things?
Well, we have the auditor who's set for
You go first.
45, so I want to let her get back to work.
You want to hear our fiddle faddle?
Much fun hanging out.
There's something wrong with you.
Oh, there's lots of things wrong with me, but I'll keep it brief. We won't talk about that. All right, so we certified the 5th of 5 elections this morning. So we are thrilled to be over election season. We don't expect anywhere near as busy a year next year. So that's good. We survived 2024. So we ended the November election with 16,531 active registered voters. We had an 83% turnout. About 74% of those ballots were returned in ballot boxes. I won't go through the litany of results. I think everybody is aware of those at this point. But those are available on our website. If people want to delve into them, you can also see precinct results. And there's a link to the statewide results for all of those elections. We will be conducting a swearing-in ceremony on December 31st in East District Court at 11 a.m. Judge Hanson will perform that swearing-in ceremony, and then there will be a small reception afterwards, cake and punch. So everybody is welcome to join. And I think that's it for me. Any questions?
No, but thank you. For the public, it's a great process. I participate as chair in the canvassing board, so got to see all your processes and your checks and balances. And you do a great job.
Thank you.
Your staff works hard.
Thank you.
So when I served on the canvassing board, we had all the ballots that we couldn't in some shape or form get a signature or get it fixed, cured. And then we usually send a couple ballots to the sheriff's office because it was pretty obvious that that somebody had signed for somebody else. Did that happen this time?
The canvassing board did not recommend any signatures for forwarding to the sheriff's office. And all in, we rejected a total of 85 ballots.
85 ballots.
Out of 13,866 ballots returned.
So there wasn't enough ballots there to swing or move any election.
No.
Okay, that's always good news too.
Yes. And at this point, we don't expect any recounts, which is also good news.
That's really good news. One thing I can say is that a cornerstone of democracy in our representative republic is the belief in free and fair elections. And having served on the canvassing board and watching how you conduct the elections, that is one thing that I've always felt that we have in Klickitat County and Washington State is that every vote that gets cast gets voted or counted. And we look at every signature and that it is ensured that there is no widespread fraud or anything else. And I appreciate all the hard work you do.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. My staff appreciates that. We have a really good team. So,
Yes.
Thank you.
yep. Happy Thanksgiving.
Happy
you.
Thanksgiving.
The combined number I was talking about is when they had to recheck and email somebody and say, or send them a letter. So quite a few of them straightened it up and got it back in.
That's the goal.
It's shocking though, how many people it carries. Okay, so we're about 3 minutes early, but we could go ahead with Public Works.
Well, just to follow along.
Good morning.
Morning.
Thank you.
Oh, yes.
Go ahead.
Okay. Consent agenda for us went through fine. Boy, looks like we got a slant today. At least on the one I got. Anyway, I can read it as slant. And we have one pay estimate for Midway Underground in the amount of $526,931. That is all state grant funded dollars. Where we have somebody go say that we're spending all this money, that's not the case. It's state funded. Go ahead with construction.
All right, construction. Our last project, Sunday Old Highway 8, was completed. Contractor is done and physical completion has been granted. Road design, end of things, Sunnyside Road overlay. The noticed contractors was on the consent agenda this morning and bid opening will be December 17th. The bridge repair bundles, we received 90% plans back from the consultant for our review. Bickleton overlay bids are due today and will be open this afternoon. White plastic edge lines, the project is planned for advertisement this December with an opening in January. Curve warning signs, staff still working through WashDOT with the design and getting approvals to go to advertisement. Road safety plan update, the consultant agreement has been received and in review.
Okay, on the maintenance end, the crew finished the BST on Sundale yesterday. We worked on Saturday, and not one of my favorite things, but state had it. We had to have the money spent this year. So it was important to get it done. Don't like to do it at that time, but I can't. If not, we're paying for it. So the rest of the time they're going to be cleaning up. Most people are off the rest of this week. West side, we're grading roads and doing some ditching and some brushing and just kind of overall general maintenance work for the small crew we have there also. This is the time the guys usually take off. On the facility side, Superior Court, we are not taking off there because their court is closed. So we're painting this week. We're hoping to have 95% of it complete by the end of the year. There's been some changes because we've worked really close with the courts, and there's a lot of people involved in that. the different judges and clerk, everybody that's involved. And to make it work for everybody, there's been some changes and some remodifications. But we were very successful in the grant, and we were very fortunate. Some of our stuff came in much cheaper than we thought. So we still have plenty of grant dollars available to make those changes. Events, we have a family gathering at the Dallasport Community Center this weekend, and a Christmas bazaar coming up also there. So we kind of have some events going on. Jail vent upgrades. The common area jail vents are scheduled to arrive, be delivered December 17th, and we'll have somebody put them in immediately. All the ones in the cells have been put in a long time ago. These are the ones that are under camera and that are like in the open areas. And that will complete that. Water bottle filler is scheduled to be installed in White Salmon December 19th. And Dallasport Community Center, we're working on the back porch. We're actually doing a pour today, and then one more, and then we'll put up their sign too. And then that project will be complete. Some other things, we have the second half of the 6th year coming up today. So we've made a couple changes. We'll bring those forward. Also, the last thing we have on is the franchise agreement. For the ad for the franchise agreement. So the hearing would be scheduled for December 19th. If that works with the board. If it doesn't happen December 19th, it will not happen until the middle of January. I asked the applicant, they were adamant that they wanted to have it heard now. If the board wants, we will proceed with that. There will be a little different. We will have to get it posted, so we'll need it on the that Tuesday after it's been signed. I don't know how the signing works with the board. Never dove into it that closely because the clerk of the board signs. Well, because what is brought up, the clerk of the board does not sign this one. We're one of the few counties in the state that's going to do this, but the auditor will sign. I've already talked to the auditor about this. This was brought up by a citizen. It's a law from 1937 when the clerk of the board when the auditor functioned as the clerk of the board. That's what that RCW means. So I don't know when the clerk of the board signs typically. If they sign before the board or after, it doesn't matter. Did I say that? Did I get the 17th? Sorry, I got the wrong December or the wrong date. Yes, 17th. Yes, 17th would be the hearing. So yes, we would get it signed and get it over the board or however, and then the auditor, we've already talked to the auditor would sign. If you would like us to move forward, that's what we will do.
Then time open. Okay.
Okay.
I think we have to get it on the calendar.
Okay. I would caution the board, please do not respond to any comments during citizen comment about this hearing.
No problem. Thank you.
Okay. And we're done with this.
That was pretty easy.
We try.
Anything else for you, Mr. Anderson? Questions?
Not. Oh, go ahead.
Okay. Do you have a date on the bazaar? That's a simple.
I believe it's I think that's where the 19th came in. I think it's the 19th. I'll double check. And
Okay.
get back
It'd
to
just
you.
be good for the public to know.
Yes, I
That
should have
helps.
had that. Somebody told me and I forgot.
It's okay.
No, I don't have any questions for you guys. You
Okay.
definitely brought some stuff up I need to have a conversation with, but it's not pertaining to you guys.
Okay, good.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you. I'll get those and I'll get them to you before the hearing or before
Okay.
the bid.
Okay. Thank you.
Madam Chair, if I may, I would
Yes.
make a motion for the approval of pay estimate number 6 for the Sundale Old Highway 8 CRP 359 in the amount of $526,931.76.
And I will step down in second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion passes.
It shows that we have a BOCC workshop on December 19th. Can you look, Leanne, on what that is?
Nope.
Okay. So if we need to have a workshop, I would request that we push the workshop off to the 20th. I have the SEPTI, that's the green energy transfer of sale of taxes
Okay. Oh,
group meeting at 10 a.m. at the Hal Home Center up in Ellensburg. And that is our big recommendation meeting. It's like an all-day thing.
no, that's a good meeting.
And I don't want to miss that after all the months we put into it.
And I'm not sure if we need a workshop or what was on there. So, for the 20th. So we'll put that on my calendar for sure. I think we're going to move that scheduled workshop because I don't know what was on it. And Mr. Anderson needs that day for the tax meeting about solar. I think that's more important that and since we're neither.
I also have a thing on the 10th that's an all-day event
Okay.
for federal highways. And so I don't know if Commissioner Christopher is going to be here, be available on the 10th. We need to check in on that. And if he's not going to be,
Because that's a Tuesday.
that's a Tuesday. It's Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, all day.
Okay.
And if we have to, could we push that off maybe to Monday? If Commissioner Christopher isn't going to be here, if we hold our meeting on Monday, the 9th. Yeah.
Mhm. And I'm good with that.
We need to find out what the workshop was, if somebody put it on there for a reason.
Yeah. And that's a Friday. And it doesn't show on my
It's going to be your workshop.
No. 5 days before Christmas, right? 12 days of Christmas, don't have the workshop.
Yeah, I don't.
So,
It's not on my calendar, so.
might have been a placeholder from.
Yeah,
earlier in
from a
the
long
year.
time ago. Mhm. Okay. Unless somebody calls and says, what? You canceled me?
Yep, right.
And if we do, I can also do a workshop on the 13th if somebody realizes what that was for.
Okay. So can I? Yeah, we both have time on the 13th if we have to push that workshop somewhere. Yep.
And if we had to, I could do the BOCC meeting the 9th or the 13th if you need.
Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah, either or.
What?
Yep.
Mhm. And just let me know. Anything else? You on that?
All right now.
Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you for waiting.
I'm here representing the Pac-2 champions, Oregon State University.
You just had to.
That's for
You're on for the workshop now.
that was for Casey and Greg. But anyway, I couldn't help myself. The jail update today. It's been well covered in the media that next Tuesday on the 3rd, you'll be considering the final resolution transferring the jail to the new Department of Corrections. if approved, I've notified, pending your approval, I've notified the union, sheriff command staff. The sheriff has notified the corrections officers, which I appreciated. I've notified Washington State Patrol, Civil Service Commission staff, the Goldendale and White Salmon police chiefs, and the mayors of Goldendale, White Salmon, and Vinton, that it's on the 3rd, and if approved, it would be effective at 12:01 on the 4th, so that the cities know what's going on. I'm working with various vendors that, if approved, we would need to immediately change their contracts. And so we're working on that process now, so that if you approve it, then we can, those are in place, such as Lexapol, which is all of the policies and procedures of the jail. Motorola body cams. Motorola is working on separating the contract we have with the sheriff's department. So patrol would keep their body cams. Department of Corrections would take the body cam and equipment that currently the corrections officers are using, and we would just separate the contract into two. The sheriff's in agreement with that, and Motorola's trying to figure out how to do it. So they're working on a document that I'll send for PA approval once I get it. Airmark Food Services will be on, if approved, will be on the agenda the week after, so the 10th. And then I'm negotiating with the union on the impact bargaining, and we'll discuss that later in a closed session this afternoon. So that pretty much covers, if you approve the transition next week, there'll probably be 7 to 9 resolutions over the next 3 Tuesdays dealing with the approval. So those are all pending, of course, till after the meeting. Any questions?
I just want to say thank you. This has been an absolutely heavy lift in order to make this transition. And I know it hasn't been easy and smooth along the way. And I know you've put in hundreds and hundreds of hours into it. And I can't thank you enough for all the hard work you've done.
Thank you, Commissioner. I appreciate that.
Mhm. And you know, you hear the same from me every day.
I
And you've
appreciate
been very graceful through some of the very hard times. And I really appreciate that.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I was thinking the other day how many people I've had to reach out to get information, and it's 50, 60.
And every time you think you have that box checked, you get 6 more boxes.
I mean, I've got cooperation from multiple offices and their staff, many of the departments, directors and their staff, including the sheriff's office, and it's been a big project, but couldn't have done it without your staff, and it's just been a very group effort. But I appreciate your comments. And then finally, if I may, and switch from the jail to another issue. So we have a conditional offer out to the applicant for the coroner position following the interviews the other day. We posted it at step 1. Normally we do 1 through 3 or 1 through 5 occasionally. I would like permission to offer this applicant step 5. This applicant has the years of experience, the qualifications, the certifications, and has acted in that role before, has experience in that role. So I would ask your permission to offer step 5 to this applicant.
What do you think?
I've reviewed everything very carefully. I have no problem with it. I think it was a godsend for that applicant to come forward.
And I'm fine with it.
Okay, thank you. And I've notified the other applicants. We had good interviews. We had a lot of interest in the position. And so I'll get the offer out to him today under the signature of the chair, is what we typically do for positions at this level. And then once it's signed and returned, then we'll just establish a start date. So we're working on that as we speak.
And it's my goal that we get them on board and onboarded prior to the 1st, because the prosecutors made it very clear that on the 1st he is done. And I would like to make it a very smooth transition and hopefully any knowledge or information that needs to be transferred and get them set up with a computer and everything else and have that done ahead of time would be my goal.
Right. And, I have to say, I've talked to other counties that are going through this process, and I'm very proud of our process. I think we're ending up with a good product and an excellent applicant, where others may be going forward kind of not knowing in the future where they'll be 6 months from now. And I'm thankful we're going to meet those state deadlines. That was important to do.
So one of the things, and I think Jen's online, I talked to her this morning. Heather and I are going to ask her if we have available funds in non-departmental, and if possible, and if we do, use those to cover the December payroll so we can get the person started sooner than later. Are you okay with that if we have available funds? The auditor said we just need general fund dollars, and if those are available, yes. They figured it out. All right, we're good to go.
Hey, as long as we got
A lot
it
of
figured out.
paperwork. Yep, a
Yeah.
lot of paperwork.
Thank you, Jen and Heather and Julianne. That concludes my report for today.
You're getting away easy.
Well, I have to go down and deal with the
No.
Pact 2 comment now,
Oh.
so it'd probably be
You
safer
made
here.
it.
Be safer
Yeah.
here.
Thank you.
All right.
Yeah.
One thing I did from the conversations at the LoSAC meeting, the coroner position was talked about a lot between these counties because we put it as one of the rural goals was to get funding for it. So of course, when you're asking for funding from the state, and we did put that forward as one of the legislative tasks and asks, so that hopefully we can get at least 5 years of that funded so that it gives us time to roll into something new. One of the conversation that we had a lot is the difference between elected or appointed, and which direction other small counties are going. And at that time, a lot of that conversation I had was that a lot of these counties have seen what's happened around the state, and specifically one county north of us, where they had an elected coroner who went, I guess, rogue is a nice way to put it, and is causing a lot of issues. And there's not a whole lot you can do for a very small department. And so a lot of that conversation was, it makes a lot more sense to have that, because it's a professional position that needs the information and needs the training, that and this is for my seatmates and for posterity, that it makes a lot of sense to keep that as an appointed position rather than an elected position, because when you have 3 commissioners, you have more oversight and more elected, so that can stop that from happening in the future, because in a small community that could very easily happen. And it's concerning to a lot of people. So I just wanted that to be on the record for posterity's sake.
I appreciate that. And we can always learn more. That's what we've found out about a lot of things. Yeah, thank you. Okay, do you want to go back to Commissioner update miscellaneous reports?
Sure.
Anything you'd like to talk about?
One of the other interesting things, and we've got it on the afternoon for a letter of support for Blue Mountain Networks, but I attended one of the meetings, and it was on IT and internet, and it was specifically tied to the BEAD dollars. That's the federal grant dollars that's associated with trying to get rural broadband out there. I had worked for a significant amount of time with one of our local providers in the White Salmon area that provides, well, I guess the central part of the county as well, hoping that they were going to apply for BEAD dollars, because there's these sections that you can apply within. And we worked for years now to try to get there. And there's going to be three rounds of applications, and they're one of the largest providers in the nation. And they chose to not apply anywhere in Washington because of the way they set up the BEAD agreements. It was really disconcerting that was the direction, but the open access requirements, and specifically the requirement of a certain price for a certain low income level over the period of like multiple years, was too much for them, that they couldn't agree to if they're losing that much money and you have to hold that rate at that, super low amount. It was something that just doesn't pencil. And so it was really sad to see that. So it's really good to see that Blue Mountains is actually putting forward for one of the areas, the Centerville area. I hope they can be successful. I've been trying everything I can to hopefully find somebody who would put in for the central, more westerly than that areas, to try to get broadband out there. It looks like, the plan is hopefully to do fiber to the home, but there's areas where it's, $50,000+ to get to a home. And so they've got to think a little bit more broadly at the state level about what that looks like. Can you do a hybrid where certain people would be, could have Starlink, but they would be, or some other low Earth orbit satellite service, because just the fiber line run makes it so cost prohibitive that it drives up the overall cost, that then you can't be competitive in the grant program. So I see some hope on the horizon for that happening, but it'll likely be in the third round, for a lot of those areas when they have to start getting more creative. But yeah, it's always great to see, that the states and the feds believe that broadband is a utility. It's not something that's nice to have. It's now, something that you have to have in order to operate in today's society. And we're all, in essence, we're all paying for all these grant dollars that are going out. It's deficit spending at the federal level that's costing inflation and the rest of the system that we're all paying for. And so if we're paying for it, I want to see it actually occurring here. So it's just something it's gonna go into next year. And so I'm hoping that one of the three of you will take on broadband, and hopefully work with economic development and someone to champion that. I know I've done it for the last 10 years now.
And we did have a request for support for a grant.
Yeah, I brought that up.
It's
I
that
brought
one.
that up.
Okay,
That's on this
so it's the same
afternoon.
one. Okay. Because I didn't have as much, I talked to Randy a little bit in IT, and then I wanted to make sure before we authorize that. Did you want to make a vote on supporting that?
It's on for 1:30.
Okay, great.
I didn't know Brandy might come in.
Yeah, I think so, because I'd asked him to come update us from his perspective and his experience, so.
Would you like, I know it came up this morning during public comment. I'm really interested. What happened on Friday at this contentious meeting or
That
whatever?
was, that was on my update list, and I had a great meeting, so, and nobody was contentious, nobody was crabby, they had public comment, nobody gave anything negative. There were a lot of Dallasport people there interested. They let the board all speak, and we all had our turns. My portion of that was, I had backed up a little bit on our relationships because I wanted to be sure I knew everything. So I had pulled all the contracts between the city and the county so I could educate myself about our relationship as owners. I had pulled the MOUs, everything that has to do with the work of the airport manager. And I've been working diligently with the city and Matthew Klebs to make sure we're all on the same page and going forward. And then what does that look like with the board and the airport manager? And so when I gave that report, I think it was received positive. Nobody had comments to make about it or was negative about that work I was doing. I don't know what happened there, but evidently there was a misreport to this person that complained today about that meeting. It was not contentious in any way. And I even met with the airport and others after that for almost 2 hours before we had to run back up here.
So what was the purpose of the meeting in the first place?
It was our regular airport board
Oh,
meeting.
just a regular
Yeah.
airport board meeting?
Yeah.
Oh,
And so they give their FBO reports and how much fuel we've sold, just all the things going on at the airport and just updates for the airport board and for the public so they know what we're doing at the airport and where it's going. I can't think of one person that gave a negative report at that report. In fact, I was coming in today to say I'd sat in the airport board meeting because you'd ask for a better report each month and say, it's a great meeting. We're going forward. Things are.
Where are we at on the T hangers? Are they going to get built?
They're working on it. They had a grant that they were applying for through the city because it was Oregon financing.
It was, yep, it was Oregon financed.
And I believe the
we
city signed that.
received the grant,
Okay.
right? Right?
I was not updated if we'd received that grant yet. I know the city signed it and it was submitted.
Not the grant, not the application. We applied for it
Right.
months ago, but we received the grant, right? Like they granted us.
Yes,
the
but I
state of
believe
Oregon.
there's a secondary one that they were working on.
Okay,
Because it came through here and it was determined that we didn't have to sign that. So it went back to the city.
because they're the fiscal agent.
Correct, because it was Oregon funding.
Yep, because it's Oregon funding, but, and what is our percentage that to put into that T hangers? And are we using $0.09 to backfill that? Where's that coming?
I do not know. Right now, there's a little bit of a balancing because we have to get through the potential funding for the college hangar. And we have requests in that we will have answers for by next Wednesday. Then we can go forward and say, do we need to readjust that project? And then that allows for some differences with the T hangers. And we can move forward in balancing those two projects.
So you have a meeting on Wednesday on the college hangar and what that looks like.
We do not. We actually are waiting to hear back from the funding sources on Wednesday. They've
For
committed
one more grant?
Yes.
That
would be able to complete that project.
how much is that, did we apply for there?
The deficit was 5 million. I'm not quite sure if they applied for 2.5, but with their understanding, we'll probably be funded 1 million. And if we are, we can rearrange that project and complete the hangar as the original proposal. When the proposal first went in years ago, it was adjusted over time because this has been going on years. And the college kept thinking maybe they needed more. So they would reapply with the city and the airport board saying, I think
More
we-
space.
More space.
So they wanted the hangar enlarged.
Yeah.
At one point, and we designed it for it to be bigger, right?
Yes.
And now we're saying.
We may have to
we
scale
bid
back to
out
the
more
original.
than we can
Yeah.
chew.
So that project depends on the funding coming in. It also depends on getting an answer, formal answer from the college for what their lease payment, what can they really afford?
I thought that was worked out a long time ago.
It was, but now things have changed in the economy and also how many students they're going to have and all the numbers have changed. So we're re-meeting with the new college staff too, because we've
Oh, yeah.
we've
Staff has
shifted
changed over.
staff 3 times at least during this project. So we're going to update the brand new person, have them run their numbers and say, what's your bottom line? What are you willing to pay us back to make sure we can afford the project if we build it out?
I mean, I would hate to enter into construction when you don't have the agreement
Right.
already inked.
So we have to
Because
wait.
that has to pay the loan back, right?
Correct.
Because we're still taking loans out for it.
Correct. So
We're
we're
using $0.09 and grant funding.
We aren't moving any further until we have proof.
So with that $5 million increase, so we're gonna resize the hangar. Are we gonna reduce the number of lots that can be built on as well?
We could, if we resize.
Okay.
So there'll be some major changes, and evidently because it's within a certain parameter, we can re-ink those lots. It won't take a bunch of paperwork to go out for approvals and stuff to change some of those parameters. So we could scale back, give back a couple of lots or more, and then that would allow for some adjustments at the airport for their project that they're looking forward to.
What about, did we ever get it through the NEPA process?
Yes.
Is that finalized?
Yes, we did.
Signed, sealed, and
Yes,
everything?
that is all done.
Well, that's nice.
Yeah.
We've
Yeah.
only been
Tough
working
one.
for like 10 years on that with the bridge.
Yeah, NEPA's hard,
Mhm.
very hard process to get through. So it's all going well. It's just a matter of juggling right now till we get through end result on one to make sure we can plan and go forward with the second. And they're all valuable. And I can see the value in all of the projects is just balancing the need and the space.
Well, the sooner we get those lots opened up and somebody builds on it, the sooner that the
We start
county
making
can
money.
stop subsidizing the airport and they
Correct.
can stand on their own. And there's so much land and value out there, but the cost of construction's gotten so ridiculous that, yeah.
But it
And
was
the
all
sooner we
positive
build
work.
the T hangers, using the grant dollars, the payoff is so probably 5 or less years.
Yeah.
That then all that is pure profit in essence going into the airport after that, so they can keep working. I mean, it's such an amazing asset, and I'm glad you're attending the meetings and going. And I know there's a lot of misinformation that gets spread about how the airport works and everything else. And so thank you for taking that on and leading that charge. And I hope it gets better next year.
It's been very interesting.
Yeah.
Like I said, I backed up, and the last 3 weeks I have spent untold hours and untold meetings, just understanding the fine points of the airport, how it functions, what an asset it is for us and the city. And then I'm also interested where it can go in the future. We're looking for all the assets we can get and all the income we can get. So.
Yep.
So important project. It's an important project for the area. I think they did not realize years ago how important that airport would become to DNR and the firefighting. They did not realize years ago how important that airport's going to be to the military for many, many reasons for our future. So it's going to be quite the airport in the end.
Well, as Dallasport grows and the Dalles and the surrounding areas do, it continues to gain in value. Okay.
What other update? Just our conference that we attended for county leaders. It was great. It was great to reconnect with a lot of people, other commissioners. And I think I spent more time having private talks than I did attending some of the sessions. The sessions were good and I got a lot out of them. I always do. It's a great conference, and it's a great time just to get together with other people like us, and how similar we are with other problems and budgets. And you think you're the only one in the world with these problems. And then when you sit down with other commissioners, we're very, very similar. And it's nice to hear how they resolve some of their issues and what they're doing with it. And I connected a lot of business cards and brought them back with me for our planning department for contacts for them. So it was good.
You said that so positively, where I just say it's a great place to go and commiserate. No, the lessons learned and the speeches, and I'm sorry you missed the one on the economic forecast. That was really, really interesting. I'm still working on getting the PowerPoint presentation from that. I'd love to share that with you. Because he does such a great job at explaining the difference between the narrative and politics of how we feel we are doing and what the media tells us how we're doing versus what the economic reality is. And he did a great job pointing out those stark contrasts and differences. And the one I like to use is there's how you feel you're doing in the world and the economy, and you feel, and it's on a 100-point scale. And prior to COVID until now, and it dropped a little bit. It dropped from a 76 to a 74. So pretty much even keel how you feel you're doing in the grand scheme of things. And then he pointed, there's another one that says how you think everyone else is doing. And that went from like a 75 to like a 45. And so we all feel, because of the narrative, that everybody else is doing worse, but we all feel we're doing just fine in essence. And that's, what the narrative is being pushed out there in the public. And then, he goes through a whole litany of showing that we actually are doing just as well. And in many cases better in terms of net assets and everything else. And he just goes to point out that before we believe the narrative, we should always look into the actual financial reality of what's actually happening, not just what we're being told is happening. And yeah, I can't wait to share those slides because it makes for a great conversation and a great discussion. And he went through a whole list of things. So again, sorry you missed that one, but I'll try to get that shared.
And I did capture that in some of my ones that I attended. It was interesting because they were from state leadership from an agency or different ones giving the oversight to the participants. And it was interesting to me, and I'll use the example of emergency services that I sat in on. they were saying what you could do at home for disaster preparedness. And pretty much all this that he gave us, we're doing. And I was thankful to Director King and to our IT department that they're keeping us ahead of the game. They're thinking about these things and talking about it, having conversations with me about how do we set things up and how do we prepare? And that's on their agenda, and they're working on those, especially in IT, because one of their big cautions for disasters, upcoming disasters, was cybersecurity. And that was their biggest one, beyond the potential earthquake or anything else we hear about. It's cybersecurity. And our IT department's on it, and they're developing some policies already. So I feel like they're ahead of the game. But talking about finances and what they can do for you, I was thankful our team is ahead of the game and talking to us about what they need for it, because he plainly said, sorry, but we don't have anything at the state. You're kind of on your own out there. So we're talking to you, so you better get ready, but we don't have any plans and we don't have any funding.
I mean,
okay.
We've gotten cybersecurity grants that we've applied for just this year. You know, it's not a lot of money, but for the organization, I think we expend it well. Cybersecurity is always going to be one of those big issues. We know what it feels like in the county when our internet goes down for a day. Everything stops, you know, and we're hardening our system and making sure that we have 2 outs so that if one line goes down, we can get out. You know, these are the things that the public don't see on a daily basis, you know, that are happening all behind the scenes, is that, you know, everybody's working, trying to make things better. And the one thing, you know, it's to that point in my tenure where I'm looking back at like, oh, what are all the things that we got accomplished in 4 years? And, you know, some days you feel like, God, I started with this list and this is still on the list. And then you think about all the thousands of little things that have gotten done that have made the county better, that hopefully leaves it in a better place for those who come after us. And it's amazing how much work you can get done in 4 years. You hear about all the things that make the news, but that's not what really is happening most of the time.
Well, and cautioning new commissioners coming in, that was my learning curve, was how fast and furious we have to work. There's 1,000 subjects and you cannot touch each one of them every week. And we get the bigger subjects that some people entrench on, and they just keep working on it or bringing it up to the commissioners. But in the realm of that hurricane spinning around us, there's a lot of subjects that we have to work on every week for our departments. So it's an interesting job, that's for sure. And it's certainly made for hyperactive people, I believe. Yeah.
And you know, the other thing I can say is this morning when I said it's one of those positions that I wouldn't wish it on my worst enemy. Just, you know, with the negativity that you see on a weekly and daily basis. With that said, I would just like to thank all of the candidates who ran for these positions. You know, you don't get paid to run for an election, and it's not like you're just putting your best foot forward. It's a long slog, and sometimes it gets ugly and nasty because that's what our culture has come to expect and accept in the United States, where it's not that way in a lot of other places. And anybody who puts their name forward, I wish them all the luck, because it's hard to not win an election when you know, put your name forward. And I hope that good people continue to raise their hand to, in essence, volunteer in their community.
Yeah, it's so important that they get their voice heard, because we hear negativity for a small amount on Zoom or Facebook, but we have over 23,000 people in this county we represent, of all shapes and sizes. And it's our job to get to middle ground and do the best job.
And the last thing I would say, since, you know, we're just kind of burning time, is that you might run in this county because we're not a charter county. You have to put an R or a D or an I next to your name. But when you take your oath of office, you don't take it on who elected you. You take it to represent everyone. And so often, you know, we hear that we're not representing the public and we're not, you know, doing this. because everyone wants just their view to be heard or will be done. And the one thing I can say to those who assume these seats is that it's your job to represent everyone, not the people who elected you, not the people who gave you money. It's to represent everyone and the greater good. And I know that people love to throw words like corruption and traitor and all these words around. But what I can say is that the Board of County Commissioners represents the public. When we vote, we get what we deserve sometimes, and sometimes it's not exactly what we want. But I don't see corruption at the county government level. I see the county government providing the services that the citizens request. And I see the board has always been very fiscally frugal and trying to provide those services at the cheapest rates while also ensuring that we pay our employees a livable and respectable wage for their years of experience and their education. And I see the times are going to get tough. And they're going to get tough not just for the county, but for individuals and our own homes. And we're all in it together. And I hope people come together and continue to work together to solve the problems, not just point them out.
And they will. Klickitat County in their past always has. We have good people and hardworking people. So I appreciate the people of our county, the people that built this county. Quite the history. And someone reminded me that Klickitat County has been here 100 years and it'll be here 100 years after we're all gone. So we'll do the best we can while we're here and keep it going forward.
Talk about disaster. I think it was 1996. We got a big store.
Come up to the microphone and share. Everybody needs to hear.
Yeah, because this is kind of important. You're talking about disasters. Are we prepared? And I remember, I think it was about 1996 that we had that big storm. 84 was shut down, 14 was shut down. Yakima, you couldn't get to Yakima. I went to this, the only place was 14 going out that way, east, okay, to get out of here. Yep, we were done for 3 days. And I went to the store. First day, when I get to the store, the third day, there's nothing. There's nothing at the store because nothing's coming in. So people have to understand you need to think about what you have at home too. You know, I've seen people come in the store every single day. Got to have supper. Get ready. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? Yeah, everything was shut down. So it can happen. And the one disaster that I feel could come at any time is a great big earthquake in the gorge. And if that happens, we're done for a long, long time. Because those rocks, you know, you can go around the corner, go this side, it's going to go into the Columbia River. It's going to be a disaster that is going to take years to get over. So be prepared, people. Come on. And we're blessed with what we have, Jeff and all them. You know, you get lost in the woods, they're out there looking for you. They're not sitting home. So yeah, but
well, that's why, you know, curing the negativity is so important to me. We're neighbors.
Yeah.
And during those situations, we're going to help neighbors. So we don't need me, myself, and I.
And it doesn't mean I've had no time here for tragedy and stuff. The people that you didn't like and get along with, they're right there to help you.
That's good.
That's the funny part. But it's good.
Hopefully. Yeah. Good. Thank you. See, we got you to comment.
Madam Chair, I got a couple meetings I'd love to get to, so
Okay.
I would make a motion to recess for lunch.
Great. And I'll step down in second. Hearing no discussion, all those in favor?
Aye.
I will see you back here at 1 o'clock. Thank you. Good afternoon and welcome back to the regular meeting for the Klickitat County Commissioners for November 26th. And we'll start with a bid opening and public hearing with Public Works. Thank you.
All right, Madam Chair, we have, looks like 4 bidders. Start with Kern Contractors of Oregon out of Woodburn. The bid bond is present. We have a total engineer's estimate of this project of $2,097,100. Kern Contractor's bid is $2,796,059. Next, we have Central Washington Asphalt from Moses Lake, Washington. Bid bond is present. We have a total bid of $2,274,000. Next, we have Interstate Concrete and Asphalt doing business as American Rock Products out of Wapato, Washington. Bid bond is present. We have a total bid of $2,534,920. And next up, we have Granite Construction out of Vancouver, Washington. Bid bond is present. We have a total bid of $2,916,092. Madam Chair, I would make a motion to send the bids to Public Works for review and recommendation.
And I'll step down in second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion passes. Oops. I'll let you get them back in the envelope. I'm struggling with those too. So do we have a public hearing, a continuance of the public hearing for the 6-year transportation improvement program for the plan years of 2025 through 2030. So do we have, there he is. Thank you. We'll open the public hearing for the 6-year Transportation Improvement Program. The hearing is closed for the taking of any further public testimony. And so we'll hear from staff. Or do we have a staff report, or do we just move to? Okay.
Where we are. Becky. Couple things we looked into that were brought up previously. So after further research, Graves Road is going to get rebuilt and repaved, but not by us. The city's putting a water line down the middle of it. The asphalt's so bad, you're going to have to redo it. So we're making comments to them. So we've replaced Graves Road with Lyle Snowden Road. And after looking at it, we put rock on it before they came in. It really does need to be reconstructed. We think we can get it reclassified, that road, to an 08. So then we have it on with the potential of RAP funding later out, further out. That's the change we made. We took Graves off and put that road on.
Okay.
And Semiotti, we looked into that too. We've added some rock and we have plans for adding more rock with maintenance the next year or two. So
that would just be a gravel road. We just do maintenance on that road. It's that road. And so that brings us to the question. And actually, I didn't get a chance because we were busy in 2027 on your 6 year. It still says Graves. That one will be changed out.
Okay.
To Lyle Snow.
Oh, good.
All the rest of them that were on there changed. I just missed that one. So I will get that taken care of as soon as we're out of here. The other thing we've had discussion about, and we've been called on, it's funny, the same person that wanted it off now wants it back on, is Oak Ridge.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess we're looking for direction from the board, which way you want to go. And I think that's the only thing, unless the board has something else that will let the board discuss.
Do you have comments?
Oak Ridge is local access, even though it's a through road. Do you see that ever getting bumped up to an 08?
Great, can't hear you.
I mean, we could, because it does make 2 connections too.
yeah, but it's not really a collector per se.
No, it doesn't have a lot of roads coming off. Right now it doesn't. If you had a lot more development, it could get bumped up if you had more roads coming off of it. Right now, I think there's 2.
Yeah,
They're both private.
no,
There's one.
Postgren.
Postgren's a county road, and then there's a private road that comes. So there's 2 roads. So if you added more roads with development, yes, it could get bumped up.
How many does it take to bump it up?
Just depends on the traffic, and
Yeah.
if you're moving a lot of people or a lot of goods, you'd have more.
I think right there it's a hard sell because you got BZ Glenwood that borders it and could be used as that
Right.
major route of products and people. So
Yes, it serves the same purpose.
Well, I mean, technically it serves the same purpose as 141, right?
Mm-hmm.
To get you to Glenwood.
Yeah.
Need to speak up. My concern would be traffic estimates based off of a new commercial entity. That's an unknown right now.
Right.
That could
exactly.
change a lot,
Mhm.
which could bump it up.
Yes. Could bump it. I mean, it still has the capacity to take the commercial traffic. I know a lot of naysayers say no, but all the industry standards say exactly the opposite of that. Again, we can either put it on or we can look at it and evaluate it next year And we will evaluate it anyway once it's full build out. We'll put counters out and check to
Okay.
see. You know, when it develops, we don't know. And, you know, will it be a hit or will it not be a hit?
Mhm.
Who knows? But again, we leave that up to the board. Sorry, don't mean to put you on the spot.
No, you're okay.
I would say it was on there. It was taken off due to community feedback. We only have one person who's asked for it to be put back on. If the community up there wants it to be back on, I would advise them to come in and testify at the 6-year road plan to have it put back on at some point. But when the person that asked to take it off wants it put back on, that's, to me, it cancels itself out. So I'm fine with leaving it off for now and letting a future board determine that.
Well, I think in the last hearing, I spoke up and said I'd like to have it back on, but with the 0. So we
Right.
could have it in place for when we have to do whatever happens with use. Because you'd said there were specific standards that got it back on, which would be commercial, school, safety, and there was.
Oh yeah, it could be on, it meets a lot of the criteria. That's why it was originally on to begin with.
Mhm.
And that's why we built the one section. Would I say it's a bad project to build? No, I think it's a great project to build. Even throw out the whole crap with under canvas and forget about them. It was on the, it was still a good project to build years ago because it is an alternate route out.
Right, for fire.
Exactly. But again, you know, a lot has to do with the financing. And there was such an outcry not to build it the last time that, you know, this board, I mean, I think before Commissioner Zoller, the move was to take it off because why would we, you know, we have plenty of needs. Why would we spend money on a place nobody wants us to spend money on?
And if it stays as local access, the cost to build that, we're not going to have that kind of funds coming from anywhere. I'm looking at building anything with local dollars. It's going to get so tight that what's the point of having something on there if you can't build it?
Okay, so I'm probably going to be in opposition to why it was taken off.
Okay.
I think there could have been other alternative method or ideas that if we took it off the road program, it might impede some development. And that was probably a mistake. I think it should have been left in place because it was in place for local anyhow. And now we have the new very big commercial added to it. They're very successful. I don't see how it could not have a large traffic impact. And I'd rather see it in place with a 0 so that we're ready and waiting, acknowledging we are eventually going to have to do that road. So I don't know where we go from here.
I guess no offense, but I kick it back to you too, to give us the direction on where,
and
what
we
you
have
want.
A split decision.
I don't know where we go from there.
I don't either. Just all sensibility tells me to put it on. It isn't going to hurt to put it in there with a 0 as a placeholder, acknowledging we know. And we knew before this when we took it off. So now we know we know.
Did we build Lower Oak Ridge with just county dollars, reserves?
Landfill, yes.
Landfill, back when we had landfill.
Also, you know, back then, I think the total cost to Oak Ridge was what? 1 point something. You know, so that was 1 year landfill dollars, basically. Now the total cost of Oak Ridge would be.
That's 1.4 a mile.
Yeah, so how many miles is that piece? I don't remember. So it's probably $5 million now, so at least. So that's the cost difference too. And as everybody's said, our amount that's gone up in that time is very, very minimal.
It's gone down.
Our revenue has has not increased with the cost of construction. So again, we can either way, doesn't matter to us. We'll put it on or take it off. I mean, we would like to build it, to be honest with you, because we like to build stuff, but got to pay for it too.
Yeah, I guess where I'm coming from is I don't see us having the local dollars to do it. So unless we can get it upgraded to an 08, there's no way we're gonna build it at any time. I understand you saying that there's a commercial entity and it's nice to have a road, but what staff is saying is that the road is adequate, especially if you're going north out of there already. And so why would you build a highway when there's already a highway in essence to it from the north? Well, I like to build things too. I guess I'm just trying to be a little bit more of a realist that we're only building things that we have state dollars to do.
True, I can play the other side of the fence too and say, you know, if you have it on the 6 year, you're also saying that, you know, you see the viability of doing it. What I personally don't like to see is it become political. It goes on, it comes off, it goes on, it comes off, it goes on, it comes off. I mean, I could see the viability of planning to build it in the future, even if you don't have the money and putting it on, as with the $0. That's another viable means, because you're not committing any dollars to it, and that's what it was before.
Well, and I know we've used the 6 year road plan, year 6, as a placeholder, but it was always a placeholder for things that we thought we'd have money for in the future. And where we're at now is we only have $200,000 a year, you know, of landfill that's going into it. If you don't see us being able to build it in 6 years or even 10 years, then I don't see putting it on. If you think there is a way that we could actually find a way to build it, then I have no problem with it being on there.
Well, I will say this. I mean, there's always, you never know. Honestly, you never know where the funding could come from. I know, you know, CRAB's going to approach, next year, they're going to approach the new government and say, look, we need money for 09s. And if they can get that passed, then it becomes a legitimate you could get grant funding. So there's always a chance of getting dollars. I mean, you know, I could throw something out that's really far-fetched. King County just passed a road levy tax, which was incredibly expensive. I couldn't believe they passed it, but people voted for it. It's $45. It's like 1.2 or $2.2 billion. It's $44 a month for every homeowner on the average. I was amazed that they voted that in.
That won't happen here.
No, I better not happen here. And I'm being a road guy. Let's not do that here. But you never know what could happen.
You don't. Things change. And I think with the sensibility of this one, saying that we can go north because we have an exit is fairly dangerous, saying to me, looking at the state of Gilmer Road. I know it's accident reports, and I'm not quite sure in the future here pretty quick what we'll be saying about Gilmer Road and the traffic that it is absorbing, and also the bridge at BZ. I know the access at Hewsom's already a huge controversy, and we're going to be facing an onslaught down there as well. And then you look at things, if we put it on with a 0 and several things change that can make it an 8, you don't know how many new developments you'll have out there. New brings new.
Right.
And I've seen that. I've moved into neighborhoods where there was nothing and suddenly I have a ton of neighbors.
Oh, yeah.
People like to be next door to each other. So you'll have changes in that neighborhood wanting to be closer to something, or people just moving in that area in the next 6 years. And the other thing is justification, the Lyle Snowden Road. For me, those people were suffering, and we had a main artery that wasn't getting what it's needed because the smaller roads qualified for some funding. We got places that I never thought would get a road out there, got a road, and they only waited like a year. So I would rather see take care of your main arteries and all the small ones later. So I'd like to see it on there with just a placeholder to see what comes true. And you can always take it back off in a year. When the new board says, this is going nowhere, nothing happened, we can take it back off.
Right, because it's going out far. It's not going to go on
Right.
next year by
Right.
no means.
Mhm.
It would be, we would put it the same place we did before.
Yeah.
Again, that's strictly up to the board.
And we've already heard controversy from the school districts and that we're just not paying attention. And I'd rather say, well, we've got it there and we're thinking about it.
Just some clarification. Gilmer Road, BZ Glenwood Highway, is that anywhere near traffic levels to say that it's bumping up against any, like it's getting even close? I mean, you could put thousands and thousands of more vehicles on that road, correct? And
When have you done a road study out there?
Well, we did a road study with some. You just go by what the industry standards say. I mean, BZ is fine. The intersections, while we question it, WashDOT never did. So
Right.
the good thing about I'm not saying it's a good thing, but we can't force WashDOT into doing anything. And they said it was okay with them.
Well, and unfortunately,
The Hewsome and the
Hewsome
BZ,
one.
both of those
Yeah.
141 connections, WashDOT was fine.
in when we look at in terms of traffic and issues, isn't it true that it's the bottom of Snowden where it hits Loop Road? That's our busiest intersection.
That is our worst intersection.
That's our worst intersection in the county. And if you were looking at rebuilding Snowden and Lock Hill or rebuilding Oak Ridge, where's that relative ranking for you guys?
Snowden by far,
Mhm.
by far.
But this would be bottom
even
of the list with a zero.
Yes.
Is what I'm asking. for.
Exactly.
And Gilmer, I have a problem with Gilmer because during the hearings, there was testimony from a ranch farm that was incredibly impacted. And even recently, and their testimony was exempted from the hearings.
Yeah, that I can't.
That
I
bothers
don't
me.
know why that happened.
And it is a problem. There are a problem. In Gilmer, not so much the BZ intersection that bothers me is those curves going down. Because I can cite when I know there's been death accidents on those curves, which is normal traffic. It's not a great road. And it will get a look in the next few years.
Mhm. Again, there's some other roads there's always road work to be done. There's some
We've got
definite.
some bad roads.
Yeah, I mean, we've done a lot on Alderdale, which you wouldn't think was a bad road, but is our highest used to be our highest accident location.
But if we could put it on the bottom with a zero, and then next year, if nothing changes and the commissioners can take it off, at least we've given it that chance that we're going to attempt to wait and see. And we're making a statement that we see it and we understand it. And then wait upon the new commissioners and see if you come back and say not one person said anything, there's nothing happening out there. We have, we're going to take a time where we're going to have to do a road study once everything's up and going. And I want to see those numbers come back too.
Mm-hmm. That will do regardless.
We do that every year, don't we?
Yeah, we look at it, but we'll look at it more intensely when you add that kind of traffic load. I said, we go back, we try to study our roads that we pave, see if that's changed.
And as far as anybody out there, this would improve the situation of the people that live in the area, but it would also, the viability for the commercial. It's going to be better for them.
Well, being is that we only have 2 commissioners and I'm outgoing and we're not actually putting money to this. We're just sticking it on there as a placeholder. And the game of compromise being that Commissioner Zoller will be here next year and we'll have a vote. I'm fine with putting it on with no money at the year 6 so that we can move on.
Thank you.
And I appreciate
we really
that.
need to move on.
Yeah.
So I appreciate that. That's all we have. We'll turn it over to you guys to finish that.
Okay. Anything else for you, Jake?
I just wanted to ask the question I didn't see in my email, but did we get any more public comments until Friday at noon? Anything in writing? I just wanted to
We
double
saw
check.
nothing.
Thank you very much. All right,
Nothing else?
Madam Chair, if you wouldn't mind, I would make a motion to approve the 6-year transportation improvement program.
And I'll step down in second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Thank you. for your
Okay,
patience.
we have a couple other things, if the board doesn't mind, some updates from this morning. First, the Christmas Bazaar, the 6th through the 8th in Dallasport. And we also heard back from EDA. They made their decision.
Oh, already.
We received an additional $2.2 million.
Wow, more than we thought. Good.
Actually, we were hoping for
I know,
5.
I know.
That was the lowest option we would give them, but still. So what that means is we would do a 6-lot,
Okay.
a 6-lot subdivision and a reduced building size. We have heard the board, unless we heard the board wrong. We will go back to the school and see if they can ante up more money. Then there's a potential, if they want a bigger building, that we could get another loan, as long as they can
cover
it, as long as that's still the board's marching orders.
And I think there's a meeting set with the school to have that
Yes.
conversation. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's what we would do. We have some time on that. So what we will do is we will revamp the plans. We'll start Monday. We will do, again, intense work. So we have something to go to bid in 2 weeks.
Nice. Working hard. Did you send a notification out to everybody?
No, I wanted to tell the board first.
Okay. Thank you.
I wanted the board to know first.
2.2 is a lot better than 0.
It is, yes.
Yeah, it was that was good that it came in at that.
Yeah, we were happy. I mean, we would have liked to seen a little more, but again, we're happy with that. So that gives us over 5. So that's still pretty good for grant funding.
So what's total project cost going to be now?
5 plus $1 million is 6 plus about 6.3 with all engineering and everything.
When did we hear from the EDA? Was that this morning?
Yes.
That's
Right.
good.
A couple hours ago.
Weren't supposed to hear until next week, so that's good.
No, that was really good that
Yeah.
they let us know.
Good.
So of that 6.3 million, how much is loan?
1 million.
And then how much is $0.09?
$500,000.
Okay.
And then $500,000 from the city,
Right.
and about a little over 250 for the other, the other grant.
Good.
And then a potential, if the city can swing a higher payment, to maybe seek another loan to do a little bit bigger building, if the board's for that.
Okay.
But we've told them they have to be able to fund.
Their building.
Yes.
Yeah.
Would the bigger building cause a change in the 6-lot build out? That would
No,
still stay.
that will
6 lot.
stay the
Okay.
same. There'll be 2 separate paths.
Okay.
So we will do the 6-lot. Like I said, hopefully we'll have it out to bid in 2 weeks.
Okay.
That's our goal. Just get everything put together and to bid. NEPA's been approved. All that stuff all the environmental stuff is done. We're going to check again with FAA, but I would be shocked if they said you have to do any of that, because we're shrinking the project, not expanding the project. And we covered for the whole expansion. So everything is done. I think that's
Great.
all we have.
Great news.
Yeah, good to have good news.
Yes.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll have the resolution and everything next week for the 6-year and the annual.
Got it.
Okay. Thank you very
Thank you.
much. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Anderson. Department update from Mr. King, Department of Emergency Services.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. How are you?
I'm here. Still moving forward. Yes, usually I'm in the morning, but so everything on the consent agenda, thank you. Appreciate that. Next week, we'll have on your consent agenda a new agreement with the newly formed West Klickitat Regional Fire Authority, which is combining Fire District 3 and the City of White Salmon Fire Department. So that necessitated a new agreement. Everything stays the same basically on that, as all the other users agreements. In the radio system, there are no open reports of user issues. Still have the one outstanding that Fire District 2 Bickleton had put in this July during the wildfire out there. We're still looking into that transmit and receive performance issues that they're having in certain locations. The original thoughts that we had on what was causing it didn't test out to be a big enough issue to describe the on the ground performance issues that were being experienced. So we're going to have to dig a little deeper and see where that goes. I'm glad to report that the CenturyLink phone line failures that we've been experiencing for both the Klickitat radio side and for the dispatch and DEM phone system has been resolved for those two lines or services. We are still experiencing failures of the building's fire suppression alarm system, and it's connected to the phone. When an alarm goes off, it calls people with buildings and grounds. I'm working with buildings and grounds and public works to decide whether those phone lines are actually even needed, as well as with CenturyLink Tech to try to get them switched over to the new equipment that he moved all of our other stuff over and resolve those failures that we're having on a continual basis since the winter storm. So trying to get that sorted out finally. Maintenance and repairs on the radio system. I checked in with Rob about the insurance claim for the Indian Hill generator that was lost during the microwave tower fires in Hood River County, and he's still waiting to hear back. He'd given them some additional information. They had some more questions. Might put me directly in touch with that person. So we're working that ongoing. Still working with IT on providing redundancy and resiliency for our technical needs in the radio system and in dispatch, the use of other internet providers to satisfy those needs. And we're making good progress, and the plan that we have, I think, is a very good one, which will provide that resiliency that we need when one service provider fails. And we don't have internet, as you mentioned this morning, for a day or 6 days, as we just experienced a while back. So that has all gone very well, and seeing good things out of our meeting that we had with that one provider. So I'm pleased with our progress in that area. Let's see, some things still in progress. The annual report from the Tier 1 maintenance provider is still forthcoming. I've allowed them to delay that because of other priorities for both us and the PUD on their project, and got verbal reports from that technician. We went from 3 to 5 sites having transmit antenna issues to down to just one during the process of installing the radio system security cameras. They were able to sweep those antenna lines and connections and determined that there were no issues with further testing. So we've got one outstanding, and that's a good thing, because each one of those could cost us, with a tower crew and all, if there was something wrong up tower, $3 to $5 grand per site to fix if there's something to fix because of the mobilization of the tower crew. Day Wireless went ahead and did those things while they were already there doing our camera project. So, and that was just more in-depth testing to prove that there wasn't anything actually broken. So we'll see what they say about the one site. The cellular service provider outreach project and the coalition I was trying to form, that not only for fire season and my own time constraints, but also with the election and changeover in elected officials that would serve on that coalition, as well as school members. That was on hold, but now that the election's over and school's back in session, as soon as I can in the beginning of the year, I'll reinitiate that progress to form a coalition and try to get some cellular providers to pay attention to our smaller communities that need cell service, specifically Glenwood, Klickitat, Bickleton. We've had good meetings with the Bickleton's superintendent in the last 2 weeks and conversations with Klickitat and the new superintendent principal at Glenwood, as they also have a new one out there. The radio site lease agreements, KVH was on your consent agenda, so that comes off of this. That took place after I wrote this. Still working with Blue Mountain for the renewal at Juniper, and saw an email. I did not have time to look at it, but this morning got an email from my point of contact there, wanted to talk about them providing us that internet service for their co-location at Juniper. So that is moving forward, and I'm very happy to see that. It should hopefully have that agreement on your consent agenda before the end of the year. The radio site fuels reduction projects with the DNR. Diamond Gap was completed, and I haven't visited in person because that's a big chunk of time I'm not able to commit, but I have looked through the security camera there, and the work they did was fabulous. They even cut down some fairly good sized trees that were close to the site and presented a fire hazard. So very happy about that. And that meeting with Hillary France is producing more results faster than I actually expected. I'm still working with DNR Forester for the flat top site mitigation, which is a much bigger bite of the apple. They have all mentioned, which surprised me, actually having a small timber sale to mitigate.
Clear out those.
Just log it off, because some of those trees on the east and the south side of that site are just right up against the fence and right by the pole. And so they would log that out significant distance away from those. And it's not only our site, but it's also AT&T and US Cellular that are there. And it's down broadband that provides broadband for the valley and specifically the school. So there's a lot of critical infrastructure at risk there that they're taking seriously now. So I'm glad to have that at least in the planning stages. So, and the PUD's wildfire camera projects are on hold. Probably just the same reason some of my things are on hold. They've got other things going on, as well as their radio system upgrade that I mentioned earlier, ongoing. And they're trying to get that done, that work done at our flat top site, before they needed to use tracked vehicles, but they missed that window already. So they're going to be doing that work, accessing that site with tracked vehicles, and that has slowed down this other project, as well as our ability to give them what they need in sublease agreements and so on. As I mentioned earlier, the security camera project for our radio sites was completed. We have one site connected to the internet with Blue Mountain Service. The other sites, said, are in the progress. So thank them for cooperating in that effort, and thank Day Wireless and Frank on our side for putting all those pieces together, because it took a lot to get that project done, again, before winter set in, and it made it harder. Any questions about the radio system and all that good stuff?
No.
Okay. So 911 call taking and public safety radio dispatching. We still have 2 full-time positions open. Keep in mind that we still have 3 empty slots on the org chart. We have 4 people in training. Most recently, we hired 2 new people, started at the beginning of November, and then another one started a week or so later. And we have 1 in her final stage of training. The new hire is a former Marine, has experience at 911 call taking and law enforcement dispatching for a Marine base in her tenure with the Marines. So we scooped her up and put her in one of those full-time positions instead of a casual training position. The chief of operations is still working dispatch shifts, 40 hours a week or more, and trying to continue day-to-day duties as he can, and I'm picking up what I can of those duties as well as others. Just circle back, the training of that one new person that has some level of what we call as lateral, some level of experience. We're anticipating that she could be out of training within 3 to 4 months instead of the 5 to 6 months, someone with no experience off the street. The fact that she's been a 911 call taker and law enforcement dispatcher, she's got that down in that Marine base environment. Public sector is different. And then she has to learn medical and fire and all that good stuff. So we're hopeful that we'll get her out of training real soon. On the public education side, we hosted the state 911 Pub Ed subcommittee meeting on November 19th, right here in the Mount Adams room. It's very successful. Everybody enjoyed it that showed up, and people were able to log in remotely as well and had good attendance. They're continuing to receive invitations from the schools for 911 Pub Ed presentations and career fairs and so on, following up with those. Under operations, the project to work on the emergency medical protocols with Dr. Smith for our EMD pre-arrival protocols in dispatch, what we tell 911 callers to do before the ambulance gets there. That has been completed, and that's like the culmination of over a year's worth of work. On our side, the Motorola Flex, Spillman, GIS updates, as I've made you aware that it's a January 1 timeline. We're working through that process and gonna start working on that after the first of the year. And we're working with IT and Public Works GIS team to make sure that we get all that done in the most efficient and effective way possible. The Spillman Local Users Group been reinitiated. We've got participation from the 3 law enforcement agencies and commitments for them to have a Spillman associate administrators trained in their departments so that they can work on some of their own issues. We don't have to be as directly involved, can take care of their own users. And then the purchase of Bingen and White Salmon's mobile module will create them some efficiencies for their officers and their records office staff, facilitating that process and that training for them. There's a few more updates I learned this morning in our system that are still pending for them to be able to use that. I hope to remedy that in the near future. Let's see, we talked about that before. Training, peer support team, that continues. And the state training initiative is moving forward, and they are making a call for trainers to submit applications to be a trainer at the state level. So if I recommend someone to do that, they go out to train for the state. They would be paid for by the state, all expenses paid for their time training. If we hosted a class here, then we would pay them for their time because they'd be working on site with us. Any questions about 911 dispatch? Emergency management. You can read, there's a whole lot going on here. Between Frank, myself, and the volunteers, we've got a lot of things in the works. The school safety committee meeting that we had last Monday, I believe it was, that was a good meeting. Some new things came out of it. Also had training by the sheriff's office on active threat response for schools. Deputy Ben Corning takes the lead for the sheriff's office on that. That was a presentation at the Lions Club in Lisle on November 1st, and got good feedback from everybody that attended that. And Frank was there to help in that process. I'll skip down to the winter storm. Those projects are all still in play except for one with the city of Bingen. I had to make sure I get that right. And one of their projects has been pulled because it didn't meet the minimum claim requirements FEMA has.
Which one was that?
I believe it was, yes, it was the roof damages.
Okay.
It was it didn't turn out to be a dollar value that met their minimum for individual projects. And it couldn't be ganged with any other work that met their minimum threshold. So that had to be pulled. Otherwise, everything is moving forward. I did pull the Klickitat public safety radio site T1 connectivity reimbursement request because we got CenturyLink working and the other solutions that we had did not pan out. So we're continuing with that project on our side. But we pulled it from the reimbursement request. The under public works, Annex 4 water damage, that funding has been obligated and that check is forthcoming probably within a week or two.
So these get done one by one?
Yeah, they get approval, through the
One by
FEMA
one.
manager, which is not typical. Usually everything has to go through the state. They assign FEMA personnel directly to us, as well as the PUD separately. And the PUD stuff from that winter storm isn't going through emergency management at the local level either. So they're making some changes in the way that works.
So do we have if we're getting the first one through, are we expected to get the rest of them before the end of the year? Where are we at?
Not all of them. I hope that we get some of them, and we've been pushing to get as many as we can, but they're at varying states. And like some of the ones with public works where, the road damage and different things where they had to do a more in-depth, FEMA actually came out on the ground and did project reviews and so on, those will take longer. Ours for emergency management that we're already paid for, emergency response and repairs that we already had to do in the moment. Those should be much easier, and I'm hoping to get the majority of those back by the end of the year. But now that we're in the holiday season, everything slows down. Yeah, some of my emails got the bounce back.
We'll be back sometime in December.
We're out for the the holiday week and this week and so on. So it's just kind of a big unknown at this point. But the fact that they're getting approved and checks are getting into the finance department is a big win, because getting them through all the approvals, both at all levels of FEMA and then at the state, before they can get to us.
It's a lot of bureaucracy.
It is a lot of hands it has to pass through and a lot of check boxes. Mount Adams volcanic activity continued to be very small activity. If anybody's been paying attention to the USGS website, there was I think there's been 3 minor earthquakes, Mount Adams, detectable earthquakes in the month of November so far. When I looked at it the other day, just had a meeting this morning with USGS, State Emergency Management Division, Pierce County, who has the Mount Rainier
Mount
alert and
Rainier.
warning for
Mhm.
lahar and volcanic activity. We're trying to learn lessons from them and not reinvent the wheel for ourselves, and use what they've already done, the experience they have, and what they've put into place for ourselves to develop a plan for public alert and warning for both lahars and volcanic activity at Mount Adams. We had myself, Trout Lake Fire Chief, Houston now, West Klickitat Fire Authority. Got to get that name in my head eventually. It's a lot of letters in that acronym. So those two chiefs, Frank and I, on that call, as well as a representative from Tribal, trying to make sure that once they get the new detection devices in place on the mountain, which we're being told the permitting through the Forest Service should be forthcoming before the end of this year, and then USGS can start installing those as soon as they can in spring, early summer, to get up there. Unfortunately, none of them were approved to go high on the mountain into the wilderness area. There's a whole nother threshold for getting permitting in the wilderness area. Yeah, today's meeting, I made it very clear that that was unacceptable, and USGS should please reach out to us locals so that we could have a conversation and try and impress upon the Forest Service. And we know the local folks, and they have all the same motivations we do, but impress upon them that this is a life safety issue, and this detection equipment provides us with the ability to hopefully warn the public in a timely fashion of these things. But the bar for getting anything permitted in the wilderness, as an exemption, any mechanical devices, right? Mechanism, equipment, and all that, is that it has to be an immediate threat to life, safety, and health. So detection devices up until this point have not met their bar for immediate. My assertion is that at the time one of those events and a lahar without any warning, right, out any notification. So if you're not having regular volcanic activity for ongoing, which brings up the risk of a lahar to a much higher level, but a spontaneous lahar event can still happen. And at the point that that happens, that is an immediate risk to life and health safety that it's too late to do anything about.
17 minutes.
I asked them to recalculate that because those things are calculated based on other times and other mountains. So to this morning's meeting, I asked for that to be calculated and what the flow would be, how far, and all those things. We needed to, what the time of warning would be once they get these the new detective equipment in place at the locations they're going to get it permitted at. Because, you know, the higher up on the mountain it is, the more time we're going to have from detection to impact in the valley. So USGS personnel agreed to, you know, recalculate those things so that we can take what Pierce County has done on the west side of Mount Rainier, and adapt that to our own needs. Because a lot of their the population centers that they're worried about notifying, one of them's 45 to 50 minutes downstream of a lahar. That's how much notice they'll have. In Trout Lake, it'll be significantly less. So, but anyway, we're working through that and funding options. We talked about all those things. The hazard mitigation grant program is what I'm thinking will be our best opportunity. The BRIC grants, the pre-app or the letter of intent is next September, and then it's the final app I think is due in sometime in December. But that means there's a whole lot of work to get done between now and basically for us the start of fire season next year. Because once we get into July, Frank and my time and the fire chief's time, you know, everybody in the county that would be working on this really gets eaten up by wildfire response. So we'll see what we can get done. Hopefully there'll be something in place and we can apply for that BRIC grant in the next cycle, next fall. We also, this activity on Mount Adams has also spurred the need for a relook at the Mount Adams, Mount St. Helens coordination plan. So we're having a meeting with, I think there's 5 counties involved in that, and all kinds of agencies from local all the way up to federal. That'll be on February 19th. And just to make sure that, if nothing else, all the contact numbers and positions are accurate in that plan. So when something happens like it did last month, that they're reaching out to the right contact list and not leaving us out like they did last time. Any questions about any of that? Training and exercises, amateur radio emergency services group, now under emergency management, is taken off. Got, active folks in there, not very many, but gonna work on some recruitment measures. But the folks that are participating are gung-ho. The other volunteers have been training and planning for events, both EOC activations and mobile command post operations. UAV team did training. We trained for in-building flight. So if there was an active threat or a hostage situation inside a building, what would that look like? Could we expect from performance of those UAVs? That was very educational. I participated in that, and lots of lessons learned there. Let's see. So right now, one thing I want to point out, there's a whole list of emergency management grants there, and this, where they are in the process, all those projects. But right now we have reimbursement request into state emergency management division in the excess of $86,000. And some of those are out 4 to 5 months from payment, which is making it difficult for us to balance our budget authority, our cash flow, and all those things, right? When we're waiting on the state to pay us back. So myself and my team are working on that. I made a call to them yesterday, emergency management division, and I got assurances that the recent request that we just put in yesterday afternoon was going to be fast tracked, because it's for the camera system under the State Homeland Security Grant Program, just shy of $60,000, and we can't carry that for 4 or 5 months, right? So they assured me that they would walk that through the process of reimbursement and hopefully get us a check cut by the middle of December. But just to make you aware that that is a point of concern for our fund. Cybersecurity audit has been completed, and the assessment and some work. Again, I've been working closely with Randy and his folks in his department on those cybersecurity issues and mitigation efforts. Randy and I are also scheduled to go to a cybersecurity training for response in March, and Randy found that opportunity for us, and it is funded through grants, so it's no cost to the county for us to go and attend that, and I'm looking forward to that. I'm glad he made that offer, brought that to my attention, and we can both work on those response plans for cybersecurity attacks. Moving on down, one thing that's not on here, didn't make the list last week when I put this together, was the 25 SHSP. The pre-app is due December 19th, which is earlier than ever before. Usually this is something we're not looking at providing to the state until late January or February. So we're not sure why, but it's bad timing. But we're working to get some projects in there. One of them we're going to include this time around is backup or alternate EOC capabilities as well as 911 dispatch capabilities. Now that they've taken the standard amount of the sustainment dollars that we get and reduced that's what we get just by default. And they've created the national priority area projects, and they're competitive at the state level. And we have to compete with every other EM in the state. We're going to put in more of those, and we're going to go big or go home. We're going to try and get what we actually need in backup 911 dispatch and EOC, because those grant dollars come with no match. Along with the Mount Adams Alert and Warning Project, those are going to be two humongous projects for us to deal with simultaneously, and there'll be multiple year projects. But I'm not going to let them change their grant programs to cut us out of money that we were previously receiving, just because, you know, it's going to be difficult for us to first create and design those projects and then, you know, complete them. But these are things that the county needs. And so we're going to aggressively go after those dollars that they've made it available, because we'll be asking for significantly more funds in that project for those backup capabilities than what we would have normally gotten just under the, you know, our standard allotment. So that's my tact anyway right now. Any questions about emergency management program activities? Okay. Sorry, I used to keep it down to 3 pages. Now I'm trying to keep it under 6. But Klickitat Emergency Medical Services District number 1, I think I mentioned to you, but as an official part of this update, the Chief of Operations did resign effective November 30th. They are working on a scenario where they can have him back as a contractor or some way so that he can train his replacement. Because
Do they have a replacement yet?
no, they're looking into those options. So yeah, I talked to the chairman of the board, and Will is the one that's resigning, and so they've got one, if not more, internal candidates that maybe would apply. They're not sure yet, but yeah, they're trying to bridge the gap. So let's see. And their next meeting is tomorrow, and unfortunately I won't be able to attend that, but I'll watch their notes and keep up, let you know if there's anything comes out of it. And I'm happy to report, might seem a little late, but it was the latest that anybody can remember, that wildfire season ended officially. The last official wildfire was November 6th, just northeast of Goldendale. It was an escape burn pile that got into mostly pasture grass. It was in the trees to some degree, and it was approximately 30 acres, you know, and so DNR responded in the whole bag. But for November 6th, that's a significant detail, I think. So I brought it up. And unless there's any other questions, the last thing I have is our employee of the month for November is communications officer Cadence Berkeyland. So been a valuable part of our team, of our newer members, and we thank her.
Good. No, good report.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff. Thorough as always. And
Try.
please give Cadence our wishes.
Will, thank you.
Come on up, Randy. So new business is Randy Christensen, IT manager.
So it was requested of me to look into a request from Blue Mountain Networks and basically what they're looking for is an endorsement from the board for a grant that they're applying for. Okay, so what this grant is for is to build out fiber optic infrastructure to residents in rural areas that would not otherwise have it. Okay. So what they would do is they said that there are 1,140. They broke it down into zones, and they're looking at 2 zones. The first zone is from Centerville to Dallasport in that area, and they're looking at about 1,149 households to bring internet to. And then the other one is basically Goldendale East. And they would be looking at approximately 890 houses in that area. Okay. The grant money comes from the Washington State Broadband Office. The initiative for that is called Internet for All.
And these are federal dollars.
That's correct. They're federal dollars that are deployed out to the states. So the full federal funding was got it in here, was $42 billion. The state of Washington received 1.2 billion of that. And that's what, yeah. And so Blue Mountain is looking for a share to do that. So for the Centerville, and there is a match requirement for whoever receives the grant. For the Centerville to Dallasport project, they would be required to put in 14.21% of the overall costs. And for Goldendale East, they're looking at doing 6.25% that would come out of their pocket of the total bill. Okay. The reason Goldendale East is less is because because the properties are more sparse. It's going to cost more, so more of that money gets put onto the grant. Okay. As far as speeds go, what the grant requires is a minimum of 100 megabits per second download speed and 20 megabits per second upload speed. What Blue Mountain's capabilities will be is 10 gig up and 10 gig down. So they'll have the capability of going way over and above what the requirements are. The project timeline is 5 years. But they said that they would like to have it done much sooner than that, because the sooner they get it done, the sooner they start collecting revenue, right? And once it's all built out, Blue Mountain would be the operators of the system. That's pretty much. Yeah. Oh, and the dates. The 15th of January is if you do decide to sign the letter. The 15th of January is the date that they would like the letter by, and the 31st is when they have to have the grant submitted.
It's great, and I think we talked a little bit this morning about the same one, correct?
Yes, this is everything east of the Klickitat River, all the way to the county line.
Yes. He did furnish me with a map with that all the places are outlined on. If you're interested in that, I can share it with you. It's actually on Google. It's on Google Earth.
And thank you for looking into the fine detail for me.
Oh, sure.
I appreciate it, because I knew that was your bailiwick. So.
Yes.
And we get asked for this a lot. So
okay.
And I was surprised that there are open areas through there. That map, those hexes, yes, doesn't show every area. So there's pretty big swaths that don't have it.
Correct. And so I'm not sure what I'm not sure if this map was developed by the state and they're saying, okay, or if this map was developed by Blue Mountain.
It looks like they're using the map from the OptiFab map on the Washington states.
Okay.
For the BEAD dollars. So that's why what I was mentioning this morning was We had someone else who was interested in the Snowden, Appleton, BZ area that pulled out. So we don't know if anybody's actually going to bid on that or not.
Okay.
So
At least we're getting something.
and this, you know, they can put in their application now. They might not make the first cut. There's going to be 3 rounds. So, but again, it's there was multiple ways to do it, and it all comes down to the point scale, right? And because they're going to own and operate it, the some of the others like the tribal, and then there's also counties or PUDs that are applying, and they get more points for their open access and it being public versus private. So, you know, it could be a while through the process, but it's still great news if anybody wants to, you know, run fiber rather than, you know, most of these areas were covered during the CAF $2, which CenturyLink got a lot of money for. I think it was about $2,000 per passing. And that was to provide DSL, which didn't meet the definition of broadband at the time.
Okay.
So we're rebuilding over what's already been built over.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. A little bit of bad
Oh.
blood there.
Yeah. Well, all I can say is fiber is a much longer term investment.
Yep.
Anything else than copper for sure.
Well, thank you, Randy.
You're welcome.
That helped a lot.
Huh?
Thanks.
Is there any further instruction for me?
No, I just needed information.
Sure.
Background information. Jake, did we authorize staff to write that
Nope.
letter? Okay.
Nope.
The letter's already written. It's a form letter.
Okay.
It was
they just want.
there's a few changes to it, but we can have staff make those. Madam Chair, I'd be in favor of furnishing the letter of support for Blue Mountain.
Great. And I will step down in second.
Okay.
Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Copy of that letter with changes you'd like to see. Can you get that to Leon?
I think it's just adding our names and everything.
That's it.
There's nothing else
Okay.
that I
If you
want.
can't find it, let me know and I'll get you a copy.
It's in the emails, the request for letter of support.
Okay.
All right. Thank you.
Yep, I'll do that right now.
Thank you, Jake. All right. So we just have unfinished business or miscellaneous reports and comments and then move to closed session. Anything for those 2 items, Mr. Anderson?
Not that I can think
don't-
of at the top of my head.
Have any unfinished business? We did reports and comments. So I guess we will move to a closed session with HR and administrative services. Thank you. Bye.
So for everyone online, what we will be doing when we come back is adjourning the regular meeting. I would note that county offices will be closed on November 28th and 29th in observance of the Thanksgiving holiday. I'd also note that 2 or more commissioners may be present at a retirement party this afternoon.
Make a motion.
No, I'm not making a
Oh,
motion.
okay.
You're just making the statement that we're going into closed
Okay,
session.
we'll do it after.
We will be closing down Zoom, so thank you all for being online. We won't be turning Zoom back on when we come out of the closed session.